Hello and welcome to episode 10 of the Watch It Bro podcast. I am
Woo.
Tristan.
And I am
Yes,
Marshall.
woo indeed. And today we are going to be looking at the movie Street Fighter based on the game Street Fighter.
Yes. Not the game based on the movie, which is based on the game.
That's in my notes that I was going to bring up was I think this is the only movie to be based on a video game and then subsequently have a video game based on the movie interpretation of the video game. Which, how awesome would that have been if they'd have done that with Mario?
Or you can play as Bob Hoskins running around stomping these weird little Goomba things or weird giant Goomba things.
Yeah,
That would have been trippy.
that would have been a fun game. But yes, we have entered the video game movie genre.
But before we get too into this, I want to apologize to mom and dad who have watched most of the movies that
They've
we've
watched
well, I mean, they've watched everything
except Tommy Boy.
previously, but I mean, they watched Airheads for this, and they watched Waterworld for this, and I'm sorry for making you watch Street Fighter the movie.
Your wife hated this.
Yeah.
She texted me last week and she's like, "Why did you let Marshall pick this movie?"
That makes me happy.
Oh, it's hilarious. And I was just like, we don't pre-approve these choices.
Nope. Otherwise, Airheads would have gotten through.
Airheads would have gotten through because I didn't know.
True. True.
But yes, and anyway, apologies to our folks for making them watch Street Fighter the movie.
Yep. But we're gonna have
Actually,
fun.
I don't have to apologize for anything. I didn't do this. Anyway, so let's get started with the specs of the movie that I always do
Because I don't do it.
because he doesn't do it, and I started and I just kind of accepted that that is what I do.
Yep. This podcast has been
Trial and error.
yes. Thank you.
Anyway, Street Fighter the movie, released December 23rd, 1994. It was written and directed by Steven D'Souza, produced by Edward Pressman and Kenzo Sugimoto, who is the founder of Capcom. It stars Jean-Claude Van Damme, of course, Ming-Na Wen, Damien Chapa, Kylie Minogue, who, fun fact, is the highest selling female Australian artist of all time and known by the European press as the Princess of Pop.
That's more information than I got on her.
And then going back to Ming Na Wen, she voiced Mulan. She played one of Charlie's girlfriends in Two and a Half Men. And she had a recurring role on Phineas and Ferb.
Yes. She was also in ER for several seasons.
Yes, she was. And then we
And
have. Oh, go ahead.
and most recently, she's been in Star Wars as the bounty hunter Fennec in the Book of Boba Fett and the Mandalorian series.
Yes, I was going to write that down, but I haven't seen any of that. And so I didn't know how to pronounce her name and didn't want to sound stupid.
Sounds good. She also was in the Agents of Shield show.
Yes, she was. Been in quite a few things. Up next, we have Byron Mann. And of course, the late, great Raul Julia in his final film role. He actually passed away from complications of a stroke 2 months before this movie came out.
Which is unfortunate
It is. And
because
then
he had fun making this movie.
he did, actually. He only took the role because his kids were such a huge fans of the franchise. And I was going to poke fun at the fact that they cast Jean-Claude Van Damme as all-American hero Guile. And then I read that the character of Guile was created and based specifically on Jean-Claude Van Damme. And Capcom asked for him specifically, or the creators asked for him specifically for this movie because Guile is based on him.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. And then Van Damme and Raul Julia took up most of the budget that this movie had, which is why the rest of the actors were pretty much unknowns at the time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That is our introduction notes. So if Marshall is ready, he will now take us into the movie.
Yes. Yes, I will.
Unless you have anything else to add.
No, this is I mean, Street Fighter the movie was a movie that we watched a lot growing up.
Yeah, it was.
In
I
in
don't.
in my recollection, we watched it a lot. It is nothing like the video game. The characters are very loosely based on the video game characters. We still loved it as kids. We rented it all the time and watched it a bunch.
I think we even rented the video game too.
Maybe. I remember playing it in Reno at an arcade cabinet,
Yeah.
but
I remember us renting it at least once, I think. And for those of you listening who don't know, what they did was they made a game where they took avatars of the characters.
yeah, they did what they
This-
did with, Mortal Kombat, where they took the pictures of the characters and made them move
Yeah,
from the movie.
so it was everyone from the movie as their respective characters in a fighting in a Street Fighter, and it was actually the way you played, it felt more like a Mortal Kombat game. With
It's because that's the template they use to get the sprites to look exactly like the characters, more Mortal
right,
Kombat style, which gave it that more stiff gameplay versus the smooth gameplay of the animated characters from the original.
taking a jab at Mortal Kombat, I see.
No, Mortal Kombat was a great game, but if you recall, all the moves are very stiff and blocky, where Street Fighter was more smooth. But Mortal
Yeah,
Kombat had the fatalities and blood all over the place, so that had its thing going for it.
right. And yeah, from what I've read, the reviews on the Street Fighter the movie, the video game, people people said it was stiff, funky, and blocky.
So,
But still, very cool idea. And now Marshall will take us into the video game, the movie.
okay, Street Fighter the movie. You see, first thing it opens up the Universal logo. You get some ominous music, and it turns into the Street Fighter logo. Street Fighter, the little wings that come off the side. It's a cool looking logo. I'll give him that.
It's awesome. It is awesome. Intro already into it. Loving it.
I feel like you're gonna talk more on this one than you have on previous movies.
Previous movies that you picked.
Yes, yes, previous movies that I picked.
I don't know. I talked a lot during Waterworld
You did. You did talk a lot during Waterworld.
and Airheads.
Yes, you did have a lot to say about the air ducts.
Yes. Well, and other things. I
I
I tried
know.
to be very engaged in your previous movies. You jerk.
Okay, so we it's gone to the Street Fighter logo, and it starts going into a newscast from GNT World News, crisis in Shadaloo. After several months of fighting, the civil war in Shadaloo may have reached a turning point. The capital has fallen, and then you get a news montage from around the world of different newscasters talking about this crisis in Shadaloo, where the AN, or the Allied Nations, is fighting Bison's troops. It looked like you had
Yes.
something to say.
Basically, this and one other part later is pretty much all the backstory we get on how we got to this point.
Yeah. So after you see it's like segmented across the screen. You see a little screen of a news reports from all over the world, like France and Mexico and U.S., and just all these little screens start popping up. People speaking in different languages, talking about the news, and then we get our first actual character introduction. Chung Li Zhang, played by Ming Na Wen, and she's doing her report. The report is about the AN, the Allied Nations, and the Allied Nations is like a world army where a bunch of nations have come together. They're all wearing the same blue outfits. They're working together to fight Bison, the mad dictator who's on a campaign of world domination.
That sounds about right.
Yeah,
And I don't believe she in any of the video games. I don't believe she's Chung Li Zhang, is she?
I I'm not sure if they. I don't know. I
I
did
meant
not
to
look.
look up all the names before we started this, and I failed miserably. You talk, I'll look it up.
Okay, so I'll go into the news report. The news report's about the AN keeping a hold on Shadowloo City, where they're fighting the militia and the troops in Shadowloo City keep fighting Bison's troops, and they feel like they're gaining some ground on Bison. But this is we cut over to the next character, who's M Bison, played by Raul Julia.
Who, in the Japanese version, is actually Balrog.
Yes, yes, in the Japanese version, he's actually Vega, and Vega's name is Balrog, and then the boxer is M. Bison as Mike Tyson.
Right. Because they did
So,
switch up some names. That's right.
yeah, I don't know why they just didn't switch 2 names or 3 name or 2 names back and forth. Because when it came over to America, they didn't wanna get sued by Mike Tyson for having a boxer named M. Bison.
Right. They didn't want him to get mad.
Right, so now the Mad Dictator is M. Bison in the American stuff. The boxer's Balrog, and Vega is the cage fighter with the claw. But yes, we cut over to did you find out about Chun-Li?
I'm still looking. I
I'm
actually found
guessing
out
I'm
there's
guessing
a
no.
there's a 2009 movie called The Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li, where Kristen Kruk plays Chun-Li, and it's considered one of the worst movies ever made. So we should probably add that to the list at some point.
More Street Fighter. But
Let's
yeah,
see.
no, we cut over to M. Bison, who's watching the news report from his floating desk. He's got this circular desk thing that he calls with got a bunch of levers on it, and it just kind of floats around this large warehouse, which is his command center basically. And it's I say warehouse because that's what it is, but it's a command center. It's got giant screens up. It's got cabinets and stuff where his troops are manning controls and doing things. On the news report, Chung Lee mentions that Bison's men have seized 63 of the AN relief workers and that he is ransoming them for $20 billion with a B.
Yes, that's a lot of money back then. Them nowadays.
Yes. Yeah, especially in the 90s. I mean, it's a lot of money anyway, but still, that's a lot more in the 90s scale of things. But of the 15 AN soldiers that were guarding these relief workers when they were doing their work, 12 ended up dead and 3 of them have not been accounted for. They're just missing.
Okay.
So the 3 missing soldiers, Bison's watching this report. The 3 missing soldiers get brought in right then. They all have bags on their head, and the first one gets pushed kind of in front of Bison, and he's like, "You left your home and came to this war to challenge me. Well, let's fight." And the guy's kind of pushed into it, but he charges Bison, and Bison's moves to the side really quick, grabs this guy and breaks his neck within one move.
That's probably not a move that
Not
would have broken
that
anybody's
that
neck.
that 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 doesn't look all that impressive.
Not at all. The dude telegraphs the right hook that he throws. Bison just kind of like
Dodges.
slightly moves. Like the camera angle wasn't good to show the fake punch.
Yeah,
And so it's very clearly that like Raul Julia didn't have to move hardly at all. And then like he grabs him by the back of the neck and just like flicks
squeezes
his
and yeah.
flicks his wrist
I
and
was gonna say, they can't see what your hand is doing.
you can.
Yes,
And
he
yeah, just
grabs
grabs him by the back of the neck and just kind of flicks his wrist, and they insert a snapping noise, and the guy falls, and he's like, "Huh, pathetic."
yes, and for a movie that's based on the Street Fighter video game where everybody is experts at combat, it's clear Raul Julia doesn't know how to fight, but they got him for his presence in it.
And he was also quite sick
Yeah,
during the filming of this movie. He's very, very thin and pale. You can see it in his face. He was battling stomach cancer at the time, and he was pretty far along in the battle, so he was not well.
yeah. So after Bison snaps this guy's neck, we cut back to Chung Li, and she's giving a report. She's like, "Oh, I think I see the AN commander. He's over this way." And she starts moving to this truck that has just pulled up. We cut back to Bison, who does the same thing. Has another soldier push in front of him to fight Bison, and Bison breaks his neck as well. And we see Chung Li on the big screen behind him trying to talk to Colonel Guile, who is played by Jean Claude Van Damme, and apparently who Guile was based off of.
Yes, he was.
And this gets Bison's attention. He looks up to the screen. He's like, "Oh, that's Colonel Guile." But Guile refused to comment on anything. He doesn't want to talk to the people. He doesn't want to take an interview. But he's like, "I do have a message for Bison, though. If you like looking at yourself, look at this." And he does the arm uppercut, which is similar to the finger in some other countries.
Yes, it is.
Which Chung Li's like, "What are you doing?" And she tries to grab her mic back, and they wrestle for a little bit. At this point, we're back in Bison's headquarters, and Bison tells DJ, who is played by Miguel A. Nunez Jr., who is in movies like Slam Dunk Ernest and Pluto Nash, to break into the broadcast. He wants to hijack the signal.
Side note, DJ is one of my favorite characters in this movie.
Yes, he is one of the best characters in this movie. He knows what types of movie he's in, and he plays into that.
Yeah, and he is a great character, and I like DJ's the character's awareness of his own situation
Yes, and
in
we'll
the
get to that.
movie. Yes, we will. I wanted to, yeah, continue.
But after DJ starts doing his thing on the console, we cut back and we meet two of the other characters. E Honda, played by Peter Navy Tuiasa Sopo,
He played football for the Los Angeles Rams.
who was in movies like Batman and Robin, Charlie's Angels, and played football for the Rams. We also meet Balrog, Grand L. Bush, who was in Die Hard and Lethal Weapon, just to name a few of his credits. But Bison's signal starts coming through, and Balrog and E Honda are like, "What's going on? I can't." They notice their signal's getting broken up a little bit, and it's weird because it's not a full hijack of the broadcast. They're just tapping into it. So Bison is able to talk to Guile while everything's still going out live. It's not like they shut down Chung Lee's broadcast to broadcast their own. They spliced into it, and now Bison's talking to Guile, and Giles holds the mic really quick and leans over to Cammy, who was the Australian pop star. You can pronounce the name a lot better than mine, but Kaylee McGow.
To go back to where I have it written down, Kylie
Kylie McGow.
Minogue,
Minigway?
Minogue, I believe.
Okay, so we cut over to Cammy. This is the first time we see her, but she is the one that sang the song "Can't Get You Out of My Head" from 2001. Anyway, Guile leans over to Cammy and is like, "Bison's bought the bait. Track the signal." So it looks like they were trying to bait Bison into showing himself. But Bison and Guile talk about being warriors. Bison wants to fight him in respectful combat, and he's like, "You're not a warrior, you're a warlord." Just going back and forth while Cammy kicks Honda out of his news van and starts trying to trace the signal from their equipment. Back in Bison's headquarters, DJ's like, "Hey, they're trying to trace us." He picks up on what they're doing, and then Bison's like, "Oh, you think you're so clever? You have 3 days to give me my 20 billion, or the hostages die."
Yeah, it escalates fast.
We cut over to Zangief at this moment, who's played by Andrew Bryanarski. Are you gonna fact check me on that name?
No,
Because I've been so spot on with them.
Brian Arsky's good enough for me.
Okay, he was in movies like Batman Returns and Scooby Doo.
Okay.
But he's got the last of the 3 missing hostages, and takes his hood off, and Bison's like, "The world will hold you responsible for the deaths of all these people, Guile, if you don't give me my money." And Guile grabs the mic, he's like, "Don't worry, hostages, we're coming for you, it's gonna be okay." He's like, "Charlie, buddy, hang on there." And
Why he would sell his friend out like that?
exactly. As soon as he did that, I'm like, "Yeah, I remember that." Why would he call out somebody specifically? It's like, "You've got a bunch of these people, you're holding them for ransom. Hang on, buddy, I'm coming to get you, to save you." Like, "Oh, you're important to Guile."
Here, evil warlord.
Yeah,
Here's you have my friend Charlie,
yeah. So, the
which
si
is actually accurate to the video game.
yeah,
Yes, this whole Charlie storyline is the same storyline in Street Fighter 2 for Guile, the same backstory of Guile.
interesting.
So they didn't actually tell it. So the backstories in the video game Street Fighter 2 for the Super Nintendo or whatever
Yes.
have you, they didn't actually tell you the backstory in the game. It was
Okay.
written in the booklet.
Ah,
So that little book that they gave you explaining the game,
yeah,
they gave you each character and the breakdown of each character and a little backstory from each character.
okay, and then you got a
And
little conclusion to their story at the end once you beat the game as that character.
yes,
Okay. Interesting. So after he says, "Charlie, we're coming, hang in there, buddy," Bison's like, "That's interesting." And he goes over to the last hostage before he breaks his neck, looks at his dog tags, and he's like, "Carlos Blanca, Charlie." And this guy is played by Robert Mamone,
yes, it
who
is.
is in Matrix Reloaded and Revolutions.
Hmm.
Um, and So Bison's like, "Oh, you're Charlie. You're Guile's friend." They're like, "Take him to the laboratory."
Yeah, just going for it.
Yeah, so Zangief grabs him and drags him away. So we cut to Cammy and now T-Hawk, who's played by Greg Rainwater. He was in Young Raiders and he did a bunch of voices in Young Justice. They're both in the van. They lost the trace, and Guile tells Chung-Li that she was almost useful, and he walks away. And Chung-Li's like, "He doesn't like women much, does he?" Does he? And Cammy's just like, "No, he doesn't like journalists." They leave, and Cammy turns back to her van, and we cut to a cage fight. We see a guy in a mask fighting a guy with a sword. Two guys are being bled into this facility by a guard. While the fight's going on, while the crowds are cheering, the guard's leading them past, and the guy with the sword falls down on the mat, and they look over, and we see the guy in the mask has won. He takes the mask off, raises his hand up, and people are chanting "Vega, Vega" as Vega has won the fight. And as we mentioned before, his name was Balrog in Japan, and but this guy is played by Jay Taver. Taver.
Jay Taver. That
Taver.
sounds good enough to me. Yeah.
Okay, he was in The Revenant and in the show Longmire for a while.
Okay. He was also in the Human Centipede Chapter 3.
We don't talk about that movie.
Bone Tomahawk?
Okay, I'll accept that one.
Okay.
I figured there's only 17 people in this movie that actually matter as characters. Let's name them all.
Yeah, I think so.
All the people
That's
from the video game, and then two guys that aren't. And we'll get to them.
okay.
Anyway, so yeah, Vega's won. He's cheering. People are cheering for him. He's doing his "I'm a great cage fighter. Look how sexy I am." Waved all the people as the guard kind of gestures for the two other men to follow him, and they are taken to Sagat.
Going back to Vega really quick, you are correct. He is very, very pretty and he knows it.
Yes, and he was blonde in the video games and had black hair in the movie.
Was he blonde in the video games?
Yes,
I thought he had light brown hair.
maybe maybe lightish brown, but it leaned way more toward blonde.
No, he was from Spain
Yeah.
in the video games. Okay.
Yes.
I guess we'll get into some of those wrong ones too later.
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Continue.
Okay. So we get led to Sagat, who's played by Wes Studi. And he's been in things like Reservation Dogs with Graham Greene, who we mentioned in our Maverick episode. That's the show about the growing up on a reservation, as well as in Mystery Men, Dances with Wolves, Last of the Mohicans. And he is a Cherokee actor.
He was also in A Million Ways to Die in the West and Avatar,
The Last Airbender, or the one on Pandora,
the movie.
the James Cameron one with blue people.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're the two guys that got led through are standing in front of Sagat, and the blonde one is like, "This is quite a party. Didn't anybody tell you there was a curfew?" And Sagat's like, "In Shadowloo City, no one tells me anything." And then over the PA, we get the PA DJ saying, "There's a 7 p.m. curfew in Shadowloo City. Violators will be shot on sight."
Which is fantastic.
It's
I like the comedy, the nuances of comedy in this.
Yeah, the PA guy has a lot of good comedy bits. That being said, this is the Allied Nations PA guy and their imposed curfew. Why would these guys be shooting anyone on sight?
And maybe that's just part of his job and he just got written up.
Could be, but
We're the
uh,
good guys. Right. Sorry.
yeah. Sagat offers the two men something like, "You want something to drink or something else?" He points to some women over the side, but they're like, "No, no, we just want to get down to business." And this is where we find out that the two men are Ken Masters and Ryu. The blonde guy, Ken Masters, is played by Damian Chapa, and he was in Under Siege and Blood In, Blood Out. And Ryu was played by Byron Mann. He was in Catwoman and Skyscraper.
Which Catwoman? Is that
The Halle Berry one.
the one we don't talk about?
Yes.
Okay.
For very different reasons than the Human Centipede movies. So yeah, they just want to get down to business, and Ken asks Sagat if he has his $100,000, and Sagat's like, "Yes. Do you have the weapons?" And Ken's like, "Well, show us the money first." And so Sagat brings out the money and shows him it, and Ryu holds up a radio and says, "We'll tell you where the guns are at once we get out of here." So they take their money and they start walking out. Sagat agrees to this. And he's saying goodbye, and Ryu's like, "Don't you need the radio so we can tell you where the guns are at?" And Sagat's smiling at him and starts leading them away. He's like, I don't need that because I already know where the weapons are." He's like, "I know they're behind a brewery on a dock." And he starts moving them into position where some of his guys are coming around. And I know they're sitting in these cases. And the guys start pulling out these weapons and putting the magazines in them and loading stuff up. And Sagat starts moving behind his man as Ken and Ryu look a little. They kind of sigh and roll their eyes. He's like, "What's the matter? These are your guns." And they just open fire, and they're Nerf guns.
Yeah, they are. They're toys.
Yep, they're toys, as he
I
says.
I remember loving that as a kid.
Yes, I
I
did
remember thinking
too.
that was great.
I'm like, "Oh no, they caught him!" Especially the first time you see it, like, "Oh, that's hysterical." Because these guys were trying to scam Sagat for a bunch of money with fake guns. I mean, kudos to them for actually setting something up,
Yeah.
right? As opposed to just, we're going to tell you where they are, and then they disappear with nothing there or nowhere to put them. But they set up crates of toy guns
Yep.
for Sagat to find once they get out of there. But he had already found them and shot them
Yeah.
um, with
With the
them.
little Nerf balls.
Yes, with the Nerf balls. But then actual fight breaks out. They drop the guns, fight breaks out. And fun fact, in this scene, behind Ken and Ryu, there is a statue of a golden lady kind of laying down, and it's the same statue that's in Sagat's stage from the game.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
I saw the statue. I'm like, hey, that looks kind of like the. And I paused it and went back and looked at it. And like, yeah, that's the statue from Sagat's stage, which is
Okay.
a cool nod to the video game, which I tried to find more. There's not a
Because there's
lot.
not a lot.
There's not a lot.
No.
Where was I?
A fight breaks out.
Yes, yes, the fight breaks out. Ken and Ryu are doing their best. They're doing really well. People are coming out with real guns, and they get knocked away a little bit, but then they just get overwhelmed, and there's too many guns pointed at them to keep fighting. But Sagat's impressed with their prowess. Looks like you weren't all talk. So we cut to Bison's lab, where we meet Dr. Dalsim.
Hey.
Yeah, Dr. Dalsim, played by Rashawn Seth. And there
Take
he
your
goes to
word for
double
that.
check. But he was in the Temple of Doom. He was in Gandhi, and he was in the live action Dumbo movie. And is currently he's still acting. He's 81 years old now. But I don't remember Dalsim being a doctor. I don't know if that's just a movie thing. But this is Dr. Dalsim. Bison and Zangief are there, and Bison asks how the research is coming. Dalsim is not happy that his research is being used for evil, that his life's work is being used by this madman. But Bison's like, well, after I crush my enemies, we'll see about getting you published, and that should cheer you up, huh? Like, you do this for me, and we'll see about getting you published once I'm done doing my thing. And then Dalsim does not seem reassured, but Bison's like, well, let's look at the patient. And Dalsim shows them Blanca, who is in this. I mean, before we saw Captain America, there was Blanca in the tube of super soldier making.
Yeah. Yeah, and he looks like he's got like a virtual boy on his head.
Yeah, yeah, it does look like a virtual boy, and Bison's like, "Ah, it's the perfect soldier," and Dalsim's like, "Oh, you mean the perfect killer?" He's like, same thing."
Yeah. Killing machine. Whatever.
Yeah, but Blanca is kind of not rejecting the virtual boy programming, but he's having problems with it. He's kind of trying to fight against it. He's like, why am I watching this? What's going on?"
Right, because
And
essentially it's just traumatic videos of
right,
like of war and death and destruction and
right.
mayhem.
People burning, people exploding, things. It's just a video reel of all this horrible stuff. And Bison's like, Why is he acting like this to the program? And what's he watching?" And Dalsim pulls it up. He's like, "Oh, this is merely educational software. My soldier is learning. Why does he have a problem with this?" And Dalsim's like, "Because unlike you, he's not a psychopath." And Bison grabs him by the neck and is like, "Don't push my good nature too much, doctor." And he throws him on the ground and he says, "After you're done, my loyal scientists will come in here and start working on his body." To which his loyal scientists start walking in right then and working on his body. So it's not really. When all seems done, it's like, right now my guys are coming in. But they come in, they've got this big rack with all these bags on it, DNA mutagen, anabolic plasma, a couple other things I couldn't read even when I paused it. But they've got these big bags of neon juice that they're gonna pump into Blanca. So we get back to Sagat's cage fighters. Sagat and Ken are standing back while Vega and Ryu are in the ring. They're forcing Ryu to fight Vega. Bets are being placed. Everybody's cheering for Vega. Vega comes into the cage, and Sagat leans over to Ken's like, he's the greatest fighter since the Iron Fist. And Ken's like, oh, what happened to him? And Sagat's like, well, he retired and became me. So we are getting information that Sagat is a good cage fighter as well. So Vega and Ryu are in the cage. A lady comes over and rips off Ryu's shirt.
Yes.
Yeah, she just walks up behind him and reaches over and rips his shirt off. And then they give him a sword.
And there's one lady in the stand who's holding a Vega sign, and she looks at Ryu and goes, "Huh," and chucks the Vega sign, and Vega sees it, and it's like, "Aw." So
Yes, that is my next sentence. He is offended. But they give Ryu a sword, and he does this little swords play maneuver where he twirls it and spins it and then throws it at the wooden post that's behind Vega. And Vega scowls at him and reaches over to grab his claw and his mask. And the crowd starts chanting, no weapons, no weapons, no weapons. They want to see what this guy and Vega can do to each other without weapons. Because Vega's always using the claw. That's what he's trained in fighting with. And that'll come up again a little bit later.
here's a will shortly.
Yes, very shortly. So yeah, they say no weapons. Vega puts down his mask and the claw and kind of raises his hand like, "Yes, we're gonna fight with no weapons." So they're getting ready to fight. The timer's going down.
I want to say he's quite Matador-esque. A lot of his mannerisms and celebrations of himself seems like a Matador in bullfighting as
Well,
well.
yeah, I mean I mean in the video games he's from Spain, he's Spanish, and that leads into the showmanship, the haha, the bravado of it. And I guess they did bring a little bit of that into the character here where with his how he moves, how he presents himself. So the timer's going down, people are chanting, talking, counting down the timer with them, like 10, 9, 8 till they're about to fight. They get to 1, they start moving towards each other, and then a tank just comes plowing through the side of this building. It's got these 2 ridiculously large warhead missiles on the sides of it, but Vega and Ryu jump out of the cages, everybody's screaming. But once the dust kinda settles, Guile comes out of the tank and says, "You're all under arrest." The crowd starts raising their hands, everybody's raising their hands, and the AN has caught Sagat, Vega, and everybody in this fighting pit. At this point, we cut to a boat on a river. We hear the PA guy say, "Good morning, Shadaloo," in a very reminiscent of Robin Williams saying, "Good morning, Vietnam." But Guile and his command staff are having a meeting. He was like, "Do we have any new business to discuss?" And we see a waiter kind of coming down the stairs with a couple drinks. And then we get our first character who's not in the video games and important, Captain Sawada, who is the first important person in this movie that is not in the video games,
Awesome.
played by Kenya Sawada, who was in Warriors of the Nation and The Legend is Born, Ip Man. And growing up, I always thought this character was Fei Long because they don't say his name. And if they do, I never picked up on it. I didn't pick up on it the second watch either. Or not
No,
second, but these watches. But and since he's not Fei Long is the only character from the game that's not in the movie.
really.
Yeah.
And Fei Long is no longer a Street Fighter character,
No, that character was based off Bruce Lee.
and the family of Bruce Lee didn't like it.
I'm pretty sure that's why he wasn't in the movie. But just as they were going through the legal stuff, the family of Bruce Lee not caring for the character, and just like let's not have him in the movie.
Really, he's the only one that's not in there from Super Street Fighter 2?
Yes, he was one of the 4 last characters to join the game with T-Hawk, Cammy, and DJ.
Right.
Fei Long. So those were the last 4 characters added from the original 8. Then they added the 4 more with was Bison, Vega, Balrog, and Sagat,
Right.
rounded out to 12, and then those other 4, and he was the only one not in the movie. Anyway, so he stands up, he's got new business. He says his commanders are ready to go. They just need to know where they're attacking from. Land, sea, air, what's the plan? And Guile's like, we don't know exactly yet. The waiter comes around, starts handing out drinks to people. Cammy starts talking about Bison breaking the radio silence, but them not being able to trace the signal. But all they know is his base is somewhere on the River Delta region. So they got kind of an idea where it is. They weren't able to pinpoint it, but they know it's kind of upriver on the river, which is a good starting point. But at this point, the waiter jumps up onto the table, grabs a knife, and tries to stab Guile, who takes him out almost immediately. He kicks his legs out from under him, throws him off the table, and Guile's like, "Is there any other new business?" Just very nonchalant, like this is just another day. This happens all the time. The guy's lying on the floor. Gammy walks over and rips his shirt open because it's what you do. But yeah, she rips her shirt open and sees the tattoo, and she's like, "Oh, it's a Shadaloo Tong tattoo, which is Sagat's gang."
Yeah, it is a bad tattoo and a very poorly done tattoo.
Yes. But now we're out in the yard with Sagat and Vega, and they're looking around, being all menacing in the prison yard, while Ken and Ryu are sitting there trying to eat, and people start moving away from them. And Ken's like, "What's everybody's problem with us? And are they scared of us?" And Ryu's like, "No, they're scared of them." And he nods over to Sagat and Vega, who are just standing there glaring. Going back to Kyle, talking to Cammy and T Hawk, he thinks that Sagat can lead them to Bison. They work together, but they just need to get somebody inside Sagat's circle to get close to him. Cut back to the prison yard where Ken and Ryu are now up. They're starting to be surrounded. Cammy going back and forth between this, where we see what's going on in the prison yard, and Cammy, T Hawk, and Guile talking. Cammy thinks Sagat's too smart to trust anybody new coming in because it would be obvious at this point. Let's here's a new guy to look to try and be your friend. Like, I don't trust anybody.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. He says he's not likely to trust a new friend,
right,
but he might
right.
trust an old enemy.
Might trust some new enemies. Yeah, and that's so the fight starts out. Yeah, Cammy's like he's not likely to make new friends, and they look out the window to see. I mean, Vega has made a claw from random stuff in the yard because apparently that he's got to fight with his claw.
And that's a pretty well made wooden claw.
Yeah, it's got like little bamboo things with little forks on the end, or but it looks okay. Say forks on the end, but knives or something. Anyway, the fight breaks out. They're looking out the window, and God's like, "Who are those two guys?" And like, "That's Ken and Ryu. They got brought in with Sagat's men. They're low level. It's and that's where Guile's like, well, if they won't trust new friends, maybe he'll trust new enemies." Because they're all fighting down there. He's like, patch them up and bring them to me. I got to talk to them. So we go back to Blanca. His body's being worked on. His muscle mass is increasing. He's still watching the evil educational programming, and Dulcine's kind of looking over everything. And he's probably the most subtle actor in this movie with how he's portrayed. You just see it in his face. He's looking like, what has he done? Everybody else a little more over the top. I mean, Raul Julia is a great actor, but he's just chewing up the scenery. He's being loud. He's being big. Dalsim is way more subtle and just letting his face and emotion show through there. But yeah, you can see he's not happy with what's going on. But we go back to the AN headquarters where we see a boat of refugees coming in and pulls up to the dock. They start getting unloaded and put into the medical facility when a Jeep pulls up with Ken, Ryu, and Guile. Guile takes them off and says, "Follow me, you two." He's like, "Look, I know you guys think you're doing good work by scamming other criminals. You justify your what you're doing, and I see that. You're different than Sagat and Bison, right? You're different." And they're like, "Yeah, we're different. Can we go?" Because they don't like being guilt tripped in this. I mean, they get brought to the medical facility, see what's going on around them, but they're like, "Yeah, we're different. We're not like them. We're just scamming criminals." That's their whole thing. But they're justifying what they're doing by scamming the bad guys. And Guy's like, "No, the only way you're leaving is over my dead body." He kind of hugs them both around the shoulder and smiles, and they're like, "Huh?" So we get the sense of a plan forming.
Which, as a kid, that was lost on me
Yeah,
entirely.
the first time watching it completely lost on me.
Yep. Okay.
I don't. I mean, I was 12ish, 13 when I saw it the first time, which
We saw this in theaters, didn't we?
believe so.
Yeah, so I was 8,
Yeah, I was 12ish, 13,
almost 13. No,
almost. No,
almost
just
12.
almost 12, 11, 12. Yeah.
We watched it with Rye.
Oh, I don't remember. Probably.
I want to say
Um,
I think Robin Rye.
so we get that set up. We get a nice kind of pause, and then we're still in the ANHQ, which this this headquarters is bizarre and weird. Just the way it's set up, it's hard to describe because they've got. I mean, they've taken over. They've taken over Shadaloo City, so they're putting their stuff around it. I mean, I say it's weird, but I mean, I guess if they're occupying the city, they're making it work for them. So, but we get the shot of this makeshift guard tower with a guard in it as it starts panning down to the prison yard and a truck that is pulled up. The PA guy tells a Bison trooper joke. He's like, "What do you do if a Bison trooper throws a hand grenade right in your face?" And he's like, "You pick it up, pull the pin, and throw it right back at him." So trying to keep the morale up in the occupied city. But as the prisoners are getting pulled, they're all chained together. They're getting put in the back of the truck. Giles making a show to tell them that they're going on a transport boat and that they're gonna pay for what they've done. And Sagat's like, "This isn't over. I own this city." And Giles like, "Well, I'm the repo man and I'm here to collect." Just digging into Sagat a little bit more before he gets put on the truck, and then Guile, Cammy, and T-Hawk walk away while Ken and Ryu start fighting amongst themselves. Like, why did you pick this city? Why are we even here? They just start bickering, and then they start pushing each other, and then they start swinging, and guards come quickly and break them up. But Sagat and Vega are in the truck. They got prime spots right at the back against the window, and all the other prisoners are along the sides. And they see that as Ken and Ryu get sat down, Ryu holds up a set of keys that he's grabbed from their fight, and they start unlocking themselves. And Sagat's like, "Hey, hey, toss the keys over here." And Ken's like, "No, forget you." Sagat's like, "Come on, let's put this aside, put our past aside. We can help you get out of the city." And Ken and Ray look at each other. I mean, it's no convincing at all, but they throw the keys to him, and Sagat's like, "Oh, sweet, it worked." And they start uncuffing themselves as well. So we cut to Kyle, eh, Kyle and Gammy. No,
I've been
yes.
calling it. I called him Kyle the whole movie.
We cut to Guile and Cammy, and they are they're just standing around. Guile looks at his watch, and they're just standing there in a hallway. And we get back to the truck, and just as it starts, the plan goes off. Back door swings open and it smacks into one of the guards as Vega and Ryu jump out and start fighting their way to the front of the truck. It's not a hard fight. It's very quick, but they jump in the cab and they just start driving. Guile pulls his pistol as he starts hearing the commotion and starts to move down the stairs that he's on, and he's headed towards his spot. T-Hawk at this point jumps up onto the back of the truck and starts shoveling. It's not really fighting. He's trying to hang on while Ken punches him. Yeah, Ken hits him a few times and then grabs the gun out of his holster as he kind of kicks him off the back of the truck, and T-Hawk lands on the ground and rolls. So the truck is making its escape at this point, and Guile comes running into the street to get into his position in front of the truck. He's got his pistol in hand, he starts shooting at the truck, and Ken's leaning out the back of the truck, aiming his gun forward, shooting at Kyle, shooting at Guile. Man, I'm gonna start doing that now because I screwed up once. But the truck's still going forward. Guile and Ken are shooting at each other, and Ken just unloads into Guile's stomach. You see one shot, two shot, three shot go off, and Guile puts his hands in the air and falls down dead as the truck swerves to avoid him and drives off. And where this all happened, it's everybody sees. You can see all the troops around. Some of the soldiers get their rifles up to start shooting at the back of the truck, and T-Hawk like, "No, no, you're gonna hit the captain before he gets shot." So he's stopping the guys from shooting at the back of the truck because the plan needs to happen. And then so the truck goes by, and we see Chung Li and her team standing there watching this all happen too. And she does this weird little flip roll thing, like 5 feet away from the truck, and a tracking device goes in one of the little side panels of the tarp that's over top of it.
Yeah, it would have been more subtle if she hadn't done the somersault.
Yes. Oh, I've got a lot to talk about Chung
I
Li
mean,
in just a minute.
if she would have just like as it went by, just kind of went instead of like roll,
Yeah,
throw.
yeah.
But
But
it's
as the
supposed to hint that she is.
a
Oh,
ninja.
maybe she's a martial artist.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, so the truck takes off. Media is all there. There's news outlets, there's everything. Pictures are being taken of Guile's body. I mean, there's like 6 guys with cameras all click, 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 click. Other news reporters, and Cammy calls over the medics like, "Medics, get over here. Our general needs our help," or "Colonel." The medics come running over, grab his pulse, wait a second, and then shake their head and put a sheet over. Watching it now, you're like, "Okay, that's the plan that Ken and Ryu and Guile were clearly playing out." You see all the little pieces of it.
They did not set up that there was a plan very well at all.
No, no, they did not.
Because the first time I watched it with Rachel, she's like, "Well, that's stupid. He's dead. Not dead."
I guess it's our guess it's the hindsight I know, because you could watching it now, you see all the pieces play into effect. I mean, Guile standing in a hallway looking at his watch, like, "Okay, come on, we got to get this going." The T
And
Hawk
then
not fighting back against Ken, as Ken just kind of punches him a few times and then grabs the gun and kicks him off. T Hawk also stopping the guys from shooting the back of the van because it needs to play out.
they need to get out of there.
Exactly.
They have to escape.
Yeah, I mean, the medics are in on it, a lot of the troopers are in on it. Still, they did not do a good job of saying, "This is our plan." I mean, they wanted the fake out, I guess.
Yeah, they wanted the audience to. They didn't want the audience to be on it. It seems like,
Right, but
which it was fun the first time
yeah, uh,
to not be on it.
yeah. So, but we cut over now to Bison, talking about Bisonopolis, the wonder of his new world that he's gonna create, and this thing is like a mall/little city compound. Bisonopolis is what he's calling it.
It
And
sounds
he's
like the name of a dude ranch.
It does. But he's talking with this guy who I'm guessing is his architect, and he's like, "I think we should make the food court bigger because all the big franchises will want in on this."
Sure.
But as they're talking, the TV in the corner comes Chung-Li comes on the news, which was silent until she showed up. I don't know if DJ's just patching it in when Chung-Li shows up to wherever Bison's at, but
He hired good help.
yes, yes. But Chung-Li's on the news talking about the death of Guile. And you know what? I take that back because DJ's with him in the room learning about the Bisonopolis. But yeah, so we learn about the death of Guile. We learn that Sagat is the one selling all his guns to Bison officially here. She says the future of the AN is uncertain, but the first task of the new colonel will be to bury Colonel Guile. That's a somber newscast, kind of ends, and DJ's like, "Hey, that's great news. Congratulations, sir." And Bison's like, "On the contrary, I mourn." And DJ's just like, "Yeah, okay."
That was a great beat. That beat was so good. Where he's like, "No, DJ, I mourn," and he's like, "Okay."
Bison is lamenting the fact that he didn't get to fight Guile in combat as warriors, as is honorable combat where he would break his spine.
Yeah, we'd fight honorably, and then I would snap his spine.
Yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
clearly
So
Bison is a bit unhinged,
very, very unhinged, and he doesn't like to be called out about it.
which I don't recall him being like that in the video game. The character always seemed very calculated and
Stoic.
yeah.
Yeah. But then Bison is monologuing about why people still call him a warlord and a madman. All he wants to do is create super soldiers, not for evil, but for good. And that the world will soon be in his loving embrace of the Pax Bisonica, which
Which
I am guessing is his own kind of allied nation group. Instead of the allied nations, you get the Pax Bisonica, like a pact between them.
it's never brought up before or again.
Nope. Nope.
We're
Just
just like, here it is, and we're like, what is that?
yes. What is that? And I think it is what he's going to call the nations that join him willingly and get to keep their countries once Bison's in charge.
But in his little monologue, he's like, "We will get the super soldiers, and we will destroy every single nation that is not super soldiers
Yeah. And
until."
the world and the world and all of humanity will bow to him in humble gratitude. He is unhinged. He is on a crusade of peace through violence, and he wants it his way. But it pans up and we get to see what Bisonopolis, this building or thing that's going to be his probably Capitol, what this building looks like, and it is the Bison symbol, the skull with the wings coming off the side, which is right on the front of his hat.
Hmm.
And Zangief has kind of got tears in his eyes. We was welling up. He's like, "Man, that was beautiful."
I like Zangief too.
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah. Zangief is right up there with one of the best characters, just because, well, Zangief, and he
He's so
plays it so
lovable.
well.
He's so lovable.
So back at the AN HQ in Shadowloo, the PA guy's back saying anyone breaking the curfew will be arrested. Anyone resisting arrest will be shot on sight.
That's a little nicer tonight.
It is a little nicer, but again, I made a note like these are the good guys. It's I understand them wanting to have kind of a curfew so people aren't sneaking in, sneaking around, but it's a little aggressive.
Yeah.
We cut to Chung Lee. Okay. We're getting into something. So we cut to Chung Li getting into her van, and she's on the top of the van, kind of putting this sewer grate thing back on it. She's got this lid on the top of her van that she's coming in. I think she started up the dish that's on top of her van, which is so her van doubles as a news van and like a Ninja Turtle van where it's got a bunch of stuff in it that's technologically advanced and can track people. Did you have something?
Hence the little tracker
Yes,
that
hence the
she
tracker.
very subtly put on the.
Yes, and so Chung Li, E Honda, and Balrog are in the van tracking it,
Rachel
trying to
hated Balrog's hair.
trying to figure out where I feel like it changed a couple times too.
It's a very long widow's peak.
I mean, they made his hair look like it did in the video game. They did
I don't
that.
think I don't think they did.
I think they did.
I don't think so.
Him up. Well, I go on with this. So they're tracking it, and they realize that there's another tracker signal coming back to the base as well. So there's two tracker signals, one that they're tracking, and another one that's coming back to the base.
I guess, yeah. I guess it yeah, okay, it's supposed to look like that a little bit, but
Things look
not.
better in drawings.
Yeah, well, this yeah, because the sprite doesn't look like that
Right.
from the game. Oh, I guess it does a little bit. Oh, you can see.
Yeah, you can see, oh, this is M. Bison based off Mike Tyson. I mean, look at that.
Yeah, but they called him Balrog instead.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, we're not going to get sued over this one.
But yeah, I guess the hair is a little bit different because that would have been really hard to do that
Yeah,
way. So they kind of yeah. So we're in the van.
we're in the van. T Hawk knocks on the window and says, "Hey, you guys need to beat it. You've had your 5 minutes. Get up." So Honda's squeezes through the van and gets in the driver's seat, closes his curtain behind him as he sits down, starts it up, and the curtain gets pulled open again, and Chung Li is standing there in a black leotard, her ninja suit, and Balrog's just right behind her. So she changed really quickly, and he just
With
didn't.
him. So you just
Yep,
watched?
he just no, he was watching the cameras. She's like, "Don't look at me."
Yeah, sure. So was the whole dialogue inside the van ADR?
Yes,
Because it didn't look good.
there's a lot of times the ADR does not look good in this movie, but we're about to get to something else that doesn't look good. Chung Li's ninja outfit. So the van starts driving off, and Chung Li tells the guys to follow their signal, and she's gonna stay here and find out who's messing with them with the second signal and what's going on with that tracking. So as the van hits a checkpoint, a little hatch pops open, and Chung Li jumps out up onto a sign and onto a little catwalk, and she looks stupid doing this, and she stands out. It's not nighttime. She's a black dot on a white background right now.
And you know it's a great ninja outfit when it comes with a fanny pack. Because she has her
they
fanny pack.
they have to have a place to store all their shurikens and ninja stars.
Sure, but she pulls out this electronic device that is bigger than the fanny pack.
Yes, yes, she does. Not yet though, because we get to another part that bothers me about her ninja. I'm using the air quotes ninja break in, or well, we won't say ninja break in, stealthy in quotes break in.
Yeah.
I guess they realize that she stood out too because they start making it darker and darker every kind of scene till it's nighttime outside. But it's still daytime when she's going across this little catwalk and jumps in this window.
Is it? It is daytime, isn't it, when she's trying to do this?
At least it's light out. I don't know if it's like day, but it's still the sun's not down. She jumps in this window and kind of scurries down these stairs and stands under a light that's like right above her. And she looks over the edge and sees a soldier starting to come up the stairs. So as he comes up, she jumps over the edge and hides next to a shadow under the stairs. If she had gone back 3 feet, she would have been in a shadow and hid way better than just standing there next to it.
But then you wouldn't have been able to see her.
Exactly.
Maybe she's supposed to be in the shadow. You're just supposed to be like, oh, she's next to the shadow so we can see her, but she's actually in the shadow.
This is when she pulls out her little handheld device.
just just not even acknowledging that I talked. Got it.
Nope, nope, that
That's too much.
yes. Well, on top of that, this next bit is a bit too much for me too.
Okay.
Again, enjoyable but stupid movie because she's got her little tracker, which, as you said, was bigger than her fanny pack. She just kind of pulls it out, and she's following the second signal, not her signal. She's following the signal that was also coming back to the base, and she's tracking it down the hall, and she tracks it to the morgue. So she opens the door and goes in, and she's following the signal into the morgue to a like a cart that's got a TV screen on a little dish on top of it going off in the morgue right next to a body with a sheet over it. So she looks at the screen, she's like, "Ah, someone's tracking him too," and she pulls the sheet back and sees Guile there, and she's like, "Aw," puts the sheet back on, and then he sits up. So I get that Guile would want to keep the ruse going a little bit and maybe stay there under the sheet for a bit till somebody comes and get him. But why is the device that's tracking the truck right next to him in the morgue? Why is it not back at their HQ or their room where they do all the technical stuff? Considering a lot of people are in on this, or did they want that there so Guile can pull the sheet off really quick and look at it? It's like, okay, that's where it's going, and then hide some more.
It would have made sense if they'd have gone in there and like he was sitting in a chair watching the tracker with the
Yes,
walkie-talkie.
yes.
But he is like under the sheet, eyes still closed, like
Yeah, if they had a little setup for him in the morgue where, okay, we put his body in the morgue, everything's here. He can do this. We'll take care of the press. We'll make sure the news gets out that Colonel Guile died, but
we'll
he's
throw a
doing the
guard on the door so that no
exactly.
one can come in. We're guarding the
Accidentally
body
see
of
him,
Guile.
but yeah, that's just for her to walk it to follow the tracker to the device in the morgue with the body of Guile. It's like,
And then
why?
and
Why?
then and then he sits up and says, "Oh, if I wasn't gonna give you an interview when I was alive, why would you think I would give one while I'm dead?" But his eyes were closed the entire time the sheet was off. He had literally no way of knowing who had pulled the sheet off of him.
Yeah.
So why did he give himself up?
Yeah, but he sits up and opens up his shirt and pulls the blood packets off, and Chung Li now puts it together that Ken and Ryu are working for him. She's like, "Oh, those 2 guys are working for you. It was all a fake." Good reporter. Uh,
I'm wondering if she's even a reporter at all.
yeah. Yeah, so she's like, "Oh, so they're working for you." He's like, "Do you wanna know as a reporter, or do you wanna know as something else?" As he kind of looks at her outfit. And then T-Hawk walks in, and Guile tells him to arrest her. Chung Li says, "Wait," and explains that she doesn't want a news story on Bison. She wants his head. That it's taken her 20 years to get to this point, and please don't do this.
And how old is she?
26?
So she's had this vendetta since she was 6 years old.
Yes.
She's been hunting this man.
Yes. And we will find out why soon.
Yeah.
Guile tells T-Hawk and Cammy, who just kind of shows up to take her away, and she's like, "I knew you wouldn't understand." Yeah.
Understand what? You haven't told us anything.
Exactly. So she is taken away, and as she's taken away, he's like, "This war isn't about your personal vendetta." And they kind of take her away, and he turns, and he's like, "It's about mine." Then we get to see Cammy and T-Hawk taking Chung-Li to the holding cells or prison, wherever they put the people that get arrested. Probably, I don't know, but Cammy's like, "Hey, black doesn't look good on you," and she's like, "Come on, let me go." And then she does this little flip thing, gets out of their grasp, and starts running to a window. And they're like, "Wait!" And she runs to the window, dives out of it
Yep.
onto a little awning off a truck, and just kind of starts scurrying away. And T Hawk's like, "What a screw up!" And Guile just pokes his head out. It's like, "Ooh, what a woman!"
She gets away.
She does. She gets away. And now we cut to a scene that did not age well.
We cut to a scene that does not make any sort of sense whatsoever. Why is there suddenly a bison carnival?
No, no, it's not a bison carnival. You know, yeah, yeah, it was a bison carnival, wasn't it?
Yeah,
This is
he's at the
this
center of it.
Yeah, it's because he's like Bison invites you to enjoy, and this it does a pan of this big. There's tents everywhere. There is ethnic stereotypes of people from Asia, the Middle East, anybody that has been a bad guy in a movie in the 90s, 80s, and it's just these stereotypes selling weapons.
Like you said, it's a scene that does not age well.
Right. That's how vague I'm gonna be with this.
Yeah, let's just kind of brush by.
We're in the Bison tent now, and Chung Li, Balrog, and E Honda are there performing. They're all dressed in these little outfits. She's wearing this a purple bathing suit almost, an acrobatics outfit. What am I saying? Yeah, she's in an acrobatics outfit. They're dressed in robes and turbans. They're doing a magic show. They shove her in this big water barrel thing. They toss her back and forth a little bit, and E Honda lies down. They put the barrel on top, and Balrog takes this big sword, and Honda's like, "No, no, no!" As Bison and Sagat are sitting next to each other, laughing and watching this, and he brings the sword down, cuts the barrel in half, and Chung Li's gone. She's just not in the barrel anymore. Good magic trick. She comes lowering down from the ceiling and lands in front of Ken and Ryu. It takes her back a little bit. She's like, "Oh, it's these guys." And Ken kind of smiles and winks and it's like, "Hey."
And she gets a little flirty back with him.
She does get a little flirty back with him. So yeah, she met up with the guys. They got their performance in. They're being applauded. Do you have something to say?
None of this was ever explained. Ever.
I mean, it comes up. I mean, she told the guys to follow the signal to where the truck is, and this is where the truck ended up with Sagat, Vega, Ken, and Ryu. So she caught up with them, and this is their infiltration. Remember that they have a plan when they're here.
It's just there's no they don't show any of the setup for any of it.
Nope, we get told about it a little
We
bit.
just get we get thrown into it.
Yeah. But Ken leans over to Ryu and like, she likes me as they're kind of waving themselves off and they head out of the tent as some dancing girls comes in and DJ's like, "Oh yeah, dancing girls." But Bison, Ed, and Sagat are now talking and laughing it up. Vega gets the nod to go get the guns, and Ken kind of is like, Ken and Ryu talking. He's like, "Hey, this place makes Detroit look like Disneyland," which is a shot at this place and Detroit. But
Yeah.
like the only question really is who's gonna kill who first, Bison or Sagat? But Ken kind of looks up and sees Chung Li in her little outfit, and she kind of smiles and giggles and takes off out the tent. And while Ryu's talking to him, he gets up and just slips out and doesn't even see him leave. Really, he's just like, Ken, where'd you go?" And Ken is following after Chung Li. Vega is pulling out the weapons that Sagat has to show Bison. He's like, "Hey, this is impressive, right?" He hands them to Zangief. Zangief hands them to Sagat. Sagat hands it to Bison. It was a very I wrote that down because it's so weird.
Just
Just
the passing the guns through like
yeah, yeah.
17 different people.
Vega's like, "Here's a gun." And hands it to Zangief. Zangief's like, "Great," and hands it to Sagat. And Sagat's like, "Yeah, these are my guns," and hands it to Bison. But we cut back to Chung Li and Ken. Ken's following Chung Li into this tent, and as they both enter, you hear Ken get hit, and then he groans, and we cut back to Bison and Sagat who are looking over the weapons. And Bison's like, "Now we settle the payment. You want mere money? How about I give you a country, share a country with you after I defeat the world and win?" Sagat pauses for a second and kind of smiles. He likes that idea, but he's like, when the war's over, we'll see how much of the country is left. But meanwhile, I need let me see the color of your money. We cut back to Ryu, who's still looking for Ken, and as he finds the tent, he gets rushed by E Honda and Balrog, who shove him into the tent. Honda knocks him down. Chung Li pulls a knife at him. He's like, "What's going on here?" Basically, and Ken's tied to the middle of the tent, the post in the middle. We go back to Bison and Sagat, who Bison troopers bring in a case full of money. They set it down, And Sagat's like, "Oh, that's a lot of money." So he opens the case and he's like, "What? What is this?" It shows it and it's bison bucks.
Basically, yeah.
I mean, he calls them bison dollars, but it's got Bison's face on it. It's all his printed money, and he's like, "This will be worth 5 British pounds, and that'll be the exchange rate that the Bank of England makes when I kidnap the Queen and make them do it."
Yeah. So we even further dive into how delusional this man is.
Yeah, and Sagat's listening to him this whole time, just kind of, this guy is a madman. He's planning to kidnap their queen, make the bank say his money is worth something, and he's just appalled. Basically, we cut back to Ken Ryu, Ihan Balrog, and Chung Li, who are who are tying up Ken and Ryu. Like, hey, you may not believe it, we're on the same side. We know you work for Guile. Just calm down and let us talk. As they're tying him up, we cut back to Sagat, who's like, I must have been insane to think I could do business with you. This is ridiculous. You are a raving lunatic. He's just insulting the man. He throws his stack of bison bucks that he's holding into the one of the brazier fires that's burning nearby, and that upsets Bison. And he stands up, and the two of them are glaring at each other. All the troopers kind of look over to see what's going on because Bison stood, and Sagat's making a big show of this big show to throw the money in and calling him an idiot and a lunatic, and something's about to go down there. We cut back to the tent with the guys in it, and they're Ryu's like, "Hey, I know you. You're E Honda. You almost made Yokozuna because he's a sumo wrestler." And he's like, "Yeah, I was close, but then the Shadow Lutong destroyed my career and reputation, and I lost out on it." And Balrog's like, "Yeah, yeah, they did the same thing to my boxing career." And Ken's like, "Ooh, let me guess, figure skating, right?" When he's looking at
That
Chung
was
Li.
the era of Christy Yamaguchi.
Yes, yes.
Might
Be inappropriate.
don't think that joke ages well.
No.
I appreciate it because Christy
Yeah,
Yamaguchi.
yeah. Well, it's the figure skating outfit she's wearing. You know, the unitard, maybe that's, but eh. Yeah,
Yeah,
but she is not impressed with this. She leans down and gets on their level and grabs Ken by the throat and says, "Look, the only thing you need to know is the weapons that Bison and Sagat deal in, their weapons of mass destruction, are gonna blow them straight to heck." Okay? Basically informing them and threatening them. Back in the bad guy tent, the room is divided. Bison, Zangief, and DJ, and all the Bison troopers are standing on one side. Sagat and Vega are standing on the other side with all Sagat's men. And Bison's like, "You will die for your insolence and insubordination and mockery of me," basically. We cut back to the good guy tent, which, yeah, good guys, right? Good guy, bad guy.
that line is very blurred.
It is very blurred. Very blurred. But we cut back to the tent. They have untied Ken and Ryu and chuck him out of the tent. It's like, time for you guys to go. We got work to do. And Chung Li's like, okay, boys, it's showtime. So they start getting ready. As Ken and Ryu come walking back into the bad guy tent, Ken's like, well, she said we got 10 minutes till this place explodes, right? Well, let's go see what's going on. And they walk straight into the middle of this showdown. They're standing there. Ken looks over to his side and sees Sagat and Vega. Ryu looks over and sees Bison and Zangief. And they're like, well, this got worse. And Ryu's like, back me up on this. And they're like, hey, General, we shouldn't be fighting. And he like, Sagat, loosen up. This is a party. And Sagat grabs him, grabs Ken's like, you against me? And Bison's got Ryu. It's like, why shouldn't we just kill you now? What's you dare interfere in this matter? And Ryu's like, yeah, because there's spies everywhere. There's spies among us, General. And he's like, fine, show me these spies, basically. And across the way, there's the booth, what like a big box of the magic supplies from Chung Li's show. Starts talking in Chung Li's voice, and Ray's like, there's the spies. And so all the main characters walk over to this booth, followed by the guys behind them. So you've got Bison, Zangief, Ken Ryu, DJ, and Vega all standing in front of this box that they open up, and they see a TV inside. Chung Li and Balrog and E Honda are standing there and like, hey Bison, hey Sagat, your weapons of mass destruction are gonna blow you up. This truck is gonna crush you. and E Honda does something in the truck starts moving, they're like, "Happy landings, guys, bye." And I noticed this time watching it too, they are doing their quote unquote report basically because they're giving a report, but they're talking to the camera, which is presumably on a tripod in front of them, right? Saying, "Hey,
Yeah, that's
Bison,
what I thought.
this is gonna happen. See ya." And the truck kind of rolls out of frame as they walk the other way. And Bison and Sagat go to the flap of the tent to look out. On the screen, you get a view of the front of the truck coming towards the camera.
Yeah, and Zangief was change the channel.
Yeah. But yeah, so then they set up multiple cameras to because why would they set up multiple cameras? The first camera should just be sitting up there looking at nothing now because the truck rolled out of frame. But there's a camera down there. The truck's coming at the camera, and everybody's watching the screen. And then they look out the window, look out the tent flap where Bison and Sagat went, and they can see the truck moving. And they look back at the screen, which which shows the truck still coming at the camera, like the camera has moved back further.
I don't know.
Okay. They look back and forth, they watch the truck come in and yeah, you're right, Zangief's like, "Quick, change the channel." Bison yells, "Evacuate!" And they all start running. And then the truck kinda rolls to a stop by other vehicles, not even at the tent they're all in.
Yeah.
So if they had just stayed in the tent, they would have been fine. Regardless, the truck blows up, the bad guys all evacuate, and we get a cool explosion because explosions are cool, right?
Yeah, I like explosions.
Yep. We cut to a satellite in space, kind of moving, and then it shows a screen of the Shadaloo Mountains, the Shadaloo area, and on the screen it says explosion detected, and it shows little pictures of the Bison camp. On the screen it says it's got Balrog's name, E Honda's name, and Chung Lee's name, and underneath it it says captured by Bison forces, and it shows their IDs on the other side of the screen. Like the satellite picked up all this and ran this report.
Okay, so that answers my question of how did they get captured? Well, no, I guess it doesn't, because
Right.
how did they get captured?
I'm guessing since I don't know.
There was a they were really far away. There was an explosion, massive chaos, and evacuation.
Yes. But also on the screen, it says tracking device still moving. Ken and Ryu are still doing their thing, so they're tracking them straight to Bison's headquarters. Bison has brought everybody to his base at this point. His HQ, his command room. We're in the big room with the big screens, all the his floating desk, all the desks that his men work at. DJ's like, "Hey guys, welcome back." Bison comes in, followed by Zangief. Sagat and Vega are there. A bunch of Bison men are taking Balrog, E Honda, and Chung Li in as well. And Bison's like, because Ken and Ryu were instrumental in tipping us off to the spies and capturing Balrog, E Honda, and Chung Li, get them some new clothes, make them look like Bison warriors, and treat them as they are our heroes right now for warning us of Chung Li's treachery. They are our honored guests, basically. And he's like, Sagat, Vega, you're welcome to stay here too. This is going to be fun soon. Things will be educational because Bison's got work to do now, as we're about, I want to say 12 hours is what the timer said, till hostage execution time.
Yeah, I think about 12 hours. So we go to Guile.
No, 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 no. We're still in Bison's HQs. He's telling his Bison troopers to take Ehond and Balrog to the dungeons that they'll either talk or they'll die. And he leans over to Sagat and then he leans over to Sagat and says, "Well, preferably both." He wants them to talk and then die. They'll either talk and then die or just die. And then that the journalist is to be taken to his chambers because he is going to conduct a private interview, or he has decided to grant her a private interview. That is way better than conduct a private interview. Uh,
Yes, it
it's all
is.
it it sounds better, but it's all going the same place.
Pretty much.
But yeah, E Honda and Balrog kind of struggle a little bit, but the troopers drag him away, and Chung Li gets taken away too. Zangief is like, "Come on, Ken, Ryu, come with me," and they start headed in the same direction. Zangief puts his arm around Ken and is like, "You're gonna look great. You're gonna be." He's all buddy buddy with Ken. And before they actually head up the stairs, they get within range of Chung Li to say, "How could you? You're traitors!" And then she spits at him.
Which when did they like we didn't see them but betray them.
I mean, they walked in there and Bison's like, "Hey, they warned us of your treachery." So they kind of got the information there that they pointed it out, but I mean, it's their fault for not hoofing tracks sooner.
Yeah, I guess. But it seemed like it was all a plan. Like they were gonna go in and they were gonna point him towards the crate and
Right. Well, even if they didn't point him towards the crate started talking, and then Ryu was like, "There, that's it." I mean, it was 10 seconds before the plan went off, so their plan didn't go as according to plan.
right. And but where did Ken and Ryu sell them out? That's what I
It,
don't get.
I mean, the 10 seconds before they pointed at the thing. I mean, they didn't really, but in Bison's mind, Ken and Ryu told them that they said Chung-Li was a spy, and I guess Chung-Li thinks that they got caught because they got sold out, and possibly
Okay.
thinks they got sold out earlier than the plan went on, which is why they were caught.
They were standing in the middle of Bison's camp giving a news report,
Yeah.
not in disguise whatsoever.
Yeah, she even took her mask off. It's like, "Hey, it's me, Chung-Li. This is what's happening. Bye."
Hey, there's your guys all around us.
And Ken and Ryu's information about there's the spy had nothing to do with Bison looking out the tent flap, seeing the truck, saying, "Get out!" and everybody running.
Yeah.
Because even if Ryu didn't point to the box and say, "There's your spy," they would have heard the noise. They would have walked over, opened it up, saw the little news report.
Open up the tent flap.
Yeah, and
Or
still ran.
heard the screaming of everyone getting out of the way of the truck running rampant down a hill.
Exactly. So, regardless of how it plays out, she thinks Ken and Ryu sold them out, and Ken and Ryu just kind of sees the opportunity not to get killed and say, "Look, there's a spy."
Pretty much their only option at that point. They had to tip their hand.
But yeah, so Chung Li's mad at them and spits at Ken, and he's like, "You'll dehydrate yourself." And Ken's got some good one-liners.
He does.
The Bison troopers drag her away, and they're like, "Man, this sucks. Those are the good guys like us." And Ryu's like, "Well, I don't feel really good about it, but they've done what they're supposed to do. They got in. They've got the tracker with them, which is good." So we see as they're headed up the stairs to follow Sagat, we see the hostages, we see the timer. It is about 12 hours still. We see the hostages. They're in rough shape. They've got little scraps of food. They're kind of just sleeping and lying around and being miserable because they're hostages and they're probably going to die.
Which is what hostages usually do.
So back at the AU headquarters, Guile's given a presentation because they know where Bison's base is based on the tracker right now. They said that a air attack is impossible. A land attack is not good either. The best course is a small amphibious fleet to go up this river and jump out right when they get there and storm the base. That's their plan. A small force coming up the river while the main force comes down the river. So they kind of sandwich it, right? And then what part of the plan too is they're going to send in a stealth vehicle to take out the defenses for the rest of the troops. And I didn't write his name down, but I know I said somebody stands up and says, "Is this a good idea to have one boat going against Bison's whole army? That'll be suicide. The pilot would have to be out of his mind." And it was Captain Sawada, the Fei Long guy, is
Okay.
the one that said that.
Terrible actor.
No, he does not speak English. All of his lines are ADR'd.
What?
Yeah, yes. At this point, I don't know if he does now, but from what I read, I'm like, why is nothing matched up with him whenever he talks? And he did his lines during filming in, I believe it was Chinese, and they ADR'd it over.
Okay. Terrible ADR.
Yes.
Someone is literally sitting at the microphone reading the line.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not good. The pilot would have to be out of his mind. And to do this, and it's yeah, they gave him a few more lines. I think originally he was supposed to be Fei Long.
It makes sense.
Yeah,
The pieces fit.
yeah, they do. But after filming and after the legal stuff, they're like, "Yeah, this is Captain. He's just a captain. Don't. He's not Fei Long. Don't sue us."
basically. But yeah, horrible, horrible
Yes. Bad
voice acting.
ADR. It makes it all weird, but yeah, he's the one that stands up like, "Is this a good idea? The pilot would have to be absolutely mad." And Guile's like, "Well, lucky Bison has driven me crazy." So he is planning on taking the stealth boat up the river to take down the defenses so the rest of the army can do what they need to do. He's like, "All right, everybody synchronize your watches. We are leaving at 0600. That's it. Break." And they start getting into position, getting ready for this assault. We're down in the dungeons now of Bison's fortress, and this big Russian or German guy,
I couldn't tell you
big
which.
big blonde guy who just doesn't really talk a lot, and it's hard to understand him when he does. He's sitting here whipping E Honda in the back. Balrog's just sitting there strapped to the wall, and Honda's just shrugging it off like, eh. And the guy is like getting frustrated. He grabs another switch to start smacking him again. He's just picking his teeth, rubbing it off. It's like, yeah, this is nothing. Balrog's laughing and gets punched in the face for his cheek and is told that he's next. They're like, well, maybe you should lie down first. It sounds like you're getting a little worn out. He's like, that's a good idea. And he takes off. But Balrog kind of leans over and sees the marks on Honda's back. And Honda kind of breaks at that point. It's like, man, that hurt. He's like, "How'd you do that?" He's like, "Hey, I'm sumo. My mind can be in one place, my body in another." It's you learn to just suck up the pain, basically.
Yeah, and the markings didn't look that bad. It literally looked like someone painted on red
Oh
paint.
yeah, yeah. They tore his shirt, put red marks on his back, and the like you said, most of the money went to Jean Claude Van Damme and and
And
Raul
Raw
Julia.
Julia.
So they had red paint and it made lines on E Honda's back. But Balrog's like, well, the next time your mind goes out, tell it to bring back a pizza. And these two have good chemistry together. You can tell it feels like they are friends.
Yeah, they do. They have some pretty good jokes.
Balrog grabs a chain that's right next to him and says, "Hey, Honda, give me a hand," and gives him the chain. And they start pulling on it together to break loose the shackles and stuff to get themselves free.
Yep.
The ring comes loose from the wall, and we cut to Zangief tossing Ken and Ryu's suits in a furnace. It's just down the furnace chute. He's looking at him briefly and tossing them down the furnace chute and closes up. It's like, now you boys look like Bison troopers. And we get their video game outfits almost. Ken's wearing his red martial arts outfit, which you're going to tell me the right name for it because you know it. The gi,
A gi
a
in
gi.
Japanese. In
Yes.
karate,
So
it's gi. In taekwondo, it's dobok.
karate uniform. No, no, it's yes. I mean, to be fair, these are bison trooper uniforms. Apparently, Ken's wearing his red outfit with the black belt. Ryu's wearing his white out with the black belt, but they both have the bison logo on their what is it? The left side above their on their lapel. No, not the lapel. The
The left breast.
yeah, yeah, right above the heart, basically, or where people put their hand up for their heart. Anyway, Zangief's like, now you guys look like real bison troopers, and they're walking through the training facility, and Ken and Ryu are being friendly and polite, like, hey, how's it going? Looking great, nice uniform, just just being all buddy buddy, and like, yeah, long live Bison. Yep, Bison. Yeah,
They're being real smart, Alex.
yeah,
They're openly mocking the Bison followers, and the Bison followers are too stupid to pick up on it.
yeah. So they are Zangief takes them all the way through this training facility, and he's like, "I'll meet you two at the commissary in a little bit." He grabs his belly for some food, yeah, and gives them a. So Zangief does the thumbs up, except he holds his thumb out sideways. That's how he does the thumbs up, and they both kind of just mimic him with their thumbs out sideways. It's like, yeah, and Zangief goes off to do his thing, and they get left alone. And what I forgot to say because it makes it's poignant here is that there was a big map of the facility in Bison's main command center room where everybody was in there the first time. So at this point, Ken and Ryu are like, "Hey." Ken's like, "Did you get a good look at the map?" And Ryu's like, "Just the left side." He's like, "That's good because I got the right side." So it's like indicating that these guys. I mean, these guys have worked together for a while. They know how each other works and they know their parts in their little schemes and stuff. So they each saw half the map so they can figure out this complex. So we cut back to the Allied nation headquarters. Everybody's ready for this battle. Guile's coming out to give his speech to rally the troops up, and a car pulls up as Guile gets to this podium. He's got Cammy on one side, T-Hawk on the other, because they're his right hand, and an AN official played by Simon Callow. And I bring him up because he's the second important character, not from the video games, to actually be a thing in this movie, mostly because he has lines. And this guy, he's been in a bunch of stuff, a good character actor. He was in Four Weddings and a Funeral. He voiced the grasshopper from James and the Giant Peach, and he was in Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls.
Unfortunate.
Yeah. We'll do that one soon.
No.
He shows up. Guile goes over and salutes him. He's like, "Hey, what a surprise! Welcome to Shadaloo, the front of the war. What's going on? We're just about to kick off this assault." And the official's like, "Well, no, you're not. We're gonna negotiate with Bison. We're gonna give him his money. Feel we can end this without any. We don't have to lose any more life, right? We're gonna pay the $20 million and we'll be done with it, right? He'll let the hostages go. Everything will be fine." Guile's like, "We're gonna pay him off? What's gonna stop him from kidnapping more people and asking for $50 billion next week or $100 billion? The only way to stop him is to do this assault and bring him down." And the official's like, "You need to give the order that we're disbanding. Your troops can go home. The war has ended. We're paying him off, and then you were relieved of duty."
Basically, he just got fired.
Yeah. So Guile takes the little pamphlet he's given and heads to the podium. And it's like, "Good news, everybody. The war's over and we can all go home." And he starts giving his little speech about how we've lost a lot of people in vain, but you know what? We can all go home. Bison's not going to pay for his crimes. He's going to get paid for them, but it's okay. We can all go home. You have friends that have died for this war, but that's okay too because we can all go home. And he's like, "Well, we can all go home, but I'm not going to go home. I'm going to take my little boat. I'm going to go down this river and I'm going to beat Bison so bad that the next Bison wannabe is going to feel it. Now, who wants to go home and who wants to go with me?" And the troops start yelling. They cheer. And the official's like, wait a minute," as everybody starts running to their boats and running their positions. He's like, "No, no, no, this war's over. Stop it."
And did you notice the lady running in distress carrying a shoe?
I did not notice the distressed lady carrying a shoe. I was focused on the official panicking, telling Guile to stop.
There's all kinds of chaos. Everyone's running, and then like there's the lady who is with the guy that shows up,
Yeah.
and she's just kind of like running through the chaos carrying a shoe. It's one of her shoes, but
Nice. So she lost her shoe and okay. But yeah, everybody's getting ready for the attack. Things are going on the boats, these big bags of AN supplies, weapons, munitions, everything. Everybody's getting on their boats, getting into positions. Guile, Cammy, and T-Hawk are running to their stealth boat, and the official comes up and he's yelling at him, "You have orders. You need to obey these." He's like, "Hey, some jack just fired me, so I'm getting this boat. Good luck stopping me."
yeah. He's like, yeah, I did have orders. Then someone relieved me of them. So
Exactly. At this point, he doesn't have a job, so he's hopping in a highly classified stealth boat and taking off.
yeah.
Uh, he revs it up, sprays the official and his two lack with water, and they start going. The other troops start going, and the plan is underway. Guile's going to head up the river first on his boat, clearing the way of the defenses of Bison's troops, while the main part of the army comes from the north down. But he's also the other troops are coming up from the south as well behind him once he gets the way clear. We cut to Bison's room now. Chung Li is in a new outfit.
Yeah, she's in a very nice new outfit and her hair's all did up. Who did that? When did they do that? Why did they do that? I have questions on the change.
I think they just stuck her in the room and said, "Put this on, make yourself look nice. Bison's coming," which I'm
And
just
she
gonna go
listened?
with. Yep, she listened. It's a nice outfit.
It's close to her video game outfit.
It's red. She never wears red.
She has the red outfit too. It's one of her alternate colors.
Not in the main games. After maybe, but she did put her hair up in the two buns on the side, like the Chung Li outfit, and she's got these cuffs on with a little chain between them. to keep her hands from, I don't know, getting too far apart. So Bison's in there. He's taking off his warrior outfit, the big metal shoulder pads, his gauntlets, taking off his hat, putting a robe on, and getting all comfy, and has a new hat to put on that matches his robe. And Chung Li's talking about we're getting Chung Li's backstory here. 20 years ago.
Red.
Okay, that is an alternate outfit.
It's her red alternate outfit.
Okay, okay. You're right. I guess that makes sense too because Bison's color's red in this. And okay,
Yeah, she had, was it red, blue, yellow, and
green.
I don't think she had green. I think it was
I don't
black.
know if they had that many alternate outfits in the first couple games. Anyway, Bison's getting all comfy. We're getting Chung Li's backstory about how Bison and his men came to her village, and her village and her father were fighting them back with their pitchforks. Just the humble farmers winning up, and how he saved their village at the cost of his life. But and as Bison and his men were running away, they had her father shot for the uprising, but he died a hero. And Bison's pouring himself a drink, moving around his little room. He's like, "That's interesting. I don't remember any of that."
Also,
Yes,
that story that she
yes,
tells
yes.
is Chun-Li's official lore in the game.
I did know that.
Okay.
Yes, but good. Thank you for pointing that out. I did not have that in my notes, but I did know that was her part of her
Yes.
story.
That was her actual lore. And then he says, yeah, so I remember that a bit. And he's like, oh, it's funny. The day Bison came to your village is the most important day of your life. And for me, it was a Tuesday.
Yep. You took the best line in the movie from me.
Sorry, did you want to say it? I can cut it out.
No, no, go ahead. No, I completely fine. I like there's other lines too. DJ's okay or some that are coming up. Anyway.
Yeah, I didn't know you wanted it. I'm sorry.
No, I'm teasing you. But it is the best line in the movie.
It was funny because I was watching it with Rachel
Yeah.
and he was saying that line. And I was
Yeah.
like, and as you say that, I go, and for me, it was a Tuesday. And then after he echoed, and for me, it was a Tuesday. And I was like, ah, got it right. I haven't seen it in 30 years, but woohoo.
Yeah. She's shocked at this and it I suppose it crushes her a bit. It's like he doesn't remember it. It was just a day to him, and it was everything to her. So,
Yeah.
but we cut over to the big blonde torture guy again. He's in his cage picking out weapons to what to use next. And Ken and Ryu come in and knock him out. They each punch side by side and hit him together. And these guys, they're coming in to free E Honda and Balrog. But as they come in the room, they get jumped from behind, chains wrapped around their neck, and he's like, "Well, you little looks like our little buddies that double crossed us."
Yeah. And then I was just to go back a little bit to Chun Li. It's like we've gotten a little bit of Guile's backstory and a little bit of, and we got all of Chun Li's backstory.
Yeah,
And those are the only character backstories that we get in the whole movie.
pretty much.
Of the 15 out of 16 characters that are in the game and also in this movie, we only get any kind of backstory on 2 of them.
We know that Sagat used to be a cage fighter and then started running guns. I meant to look up more stuff about the games. I just didn't.
And neither did I. I meant to also. We're really bad at this, aren't we?
No, no. We're getting little bits here and there. So yeah, Balrog and E Honda have Ken and Ryu on the ground, chains around their necks, and they're Ken and Ryu are trying to say something, and Balrog's like, "What do you say?" And E Honda's like, "He said, 'Hail M Bison.'" These guys are fanatics, and they're like, "No, no, no!" And Balrog's like, "I think he said he could lead us outside." It's like, "Oh yeah, that's a good idea. That's good." So they loosen up on the ropes, and Ken stands up. He's like, "I said we're on the same side, you jerks." They're like, "Oh," and I don't think we don't get any more interaction than that. Then we're on the same side. They're all kind of like, "Okay, let's work together." So we cut back to Bison's room, and this skeletal chandelier, which it must be made up of just people he's killed. Because
Probably.
why would you have a chandelier of bones if it's not people that you defeated, right? I'm sure he's planning on making a nice little piece in the center for where he killed Guile, but in his mind, Guile's still dead.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. So at this point, Bison and his troops don't think they think Guile's dead. That's still up in the air. That's still a thing. But we come back here, and Chung Li's still talking. She spent the last 10 years gathering intelligence on Bison, training in martial arts from every country or continent. She has been partnering herself with people that hate him as much as she does, trying to get the right opportunity to make her move, basically. Bison's in his fancy robe still. He turns down the lights because
Is he trying to set the mood to get help with his taxes?
he's trying to set the mood.
Okay.
So she's planning on ending his reign of terror herself. And Bison stands up. They do they make him look way bigger than he is, like height wise. You see him a few times. He's standing next. Later on, you'll see if you remember, he's standing next to Guile, and he's almost a head taller than him, and looks down at him.
So I looked that up because I was like, thought so.
Yeah,
And Raul Julia is 6'2".
I didn't think he was that tall. I didn't even think to look it up. I just thought they were making him bigger because he was.
No,
I don't remember him being that tall as Gomez.
Angelica Houston's 5'10".
Yeah, and if she had heels on, which I'm sure she did.
Yeah, and Christopher Lloyd's 6'1".
Okay, yeah,
So they were, and honestly, they were all just tall. Yeah,
yeah,
I looked it up because I'm like, gosh, I wrote it down in my notes for when we get to the face off. But yeah, he's Raul
tall.
Julia was 6'2", and if you notice, his boots probably give him an extra inch or so,
Probably, yeah, a few extra
inch or
few
two.
inches, but okay. I guess Raul Julie is tall.
Raul Julia was tall, yes.
But he stands up. He is not believing Chung Li's story. He grabs her by her little chain that's holding her arms together, like, I don't think so. No one's ever seen you in combat. You've always been protected by your sumo or your boxer. You haven't thrown a single punch since you've been in this country, since I've been watching you and keeping an eye on you. You're as helpless as a cat, basically. And you're all talk. And she's like, "That is exactly what I wanted you to think." And she grabs a little chain and snaps it free in her hands and runs over, jumps in the air and kicks him across the face as she flies across the room. And her plan is to kill him at this point, and he's caught off guard. He's caught very off guard. He doesn't land a single punch on her. She's just wailing on him. And I think if this next part didn't happen, she would have probably beat him.
Yeah,
But as she's kicking his butt, the door behind her opens. Ken, Ryu, E Honda, and Balrog come running in. She looks back briefly, and Bison jumps into his safety cell in his room. Glass comes up and protects him as gas starts to fill the room. The main door locks and closes, and Bison's just like, "Ho ho, what's going on? You're getting."
yeah. Just watching, and his
Yep, just
eyes are so big.
yeah, and Ehan just trying to break out, but the gas gets them all. They pass out, and the fire in his little skull fireplace goes big, and it matches his grin, and it fades into his face, and everything
Which is
fades.
pretty cool.
Yeah, it was a cool shot. But we fade out, and we're back on the boat with Guile, Cammy, and T-Hawk as the stealth boat's kind of making its own way to get ahead of everybody. And he's telling them
Music here, it's phenomenal. I don't know
out of
what song that is.
out of place with the movie.
No, it totally works.
Eh,
It totally works.
well, eh. I still say it doesn't work, but
No, in the jumbled mess that this movie is all the way through, that music is totally perfect.
anyway, we see Guile and company in the little boat. He gets on the radio and says, "All right, everybody, hold back. We'll go take out the enemy radars and the enemy guns and clear the way for you to come in after us. And or we're counting on you to come get us after we get there." So the captain gets everybody in attack formation. They start getting ready as the little stealth boat starts headed up the river.
And then somehow Giles watching home movies.
So, yes, if we get a couple shots, like you said, we got the song, we got a couple wide shots of this boat going up the river, and Guile pulls out what looks like a mini, like the tapes you'd get from at a grandpa's camcorder, the little 8 millimeter cassette tapes for those, not cassette tapes, but the tapes that go in those cameras, the video cameras from the 90s. And he puts
Okay.
it in what looks like a V8, not a VHS, a cassette player in this in this stealth boat,
Yes, he does.
because he was carrying around this little home movie with him, and he's watching this scene of, I'm guessing, Cammy filming or T-Hawk or something, but it's Guile and Carlos Blanca, Charlie, his friend,
On a date.
on a date, and it slowly starts to go into slow mo just at the end of it, as it's showing Charlie's face. It is
It is weird.
it is weird and bizarre, and it's the movie's way of letting you know how close Charlie and Guile were, I guess, instead of actually showing it throughout the rest of the movie.
Have him tell a story or two.
Weird little date home video that, I'll say T-Hawk is the one that filmed it, because it'd be weird for Cammy to film it. I don't know.
It's weird for either one of them to film it.
Right, right. Well, I mean, unless you're there. I mean, it's all part of Shadaloo. They're in the army, and T-Hawk's just making these videos because they're overseas, and like, hey, look, it's my friends.
I'll accept it.
Okay. Anyway, it zooms in on Charlie's face. It kind of slow mos, and then it fades into him now as Blanca. His skin is green, his hair is orange and wild and all over the place. And Dr. Dalsim is checking him out, and he turns on
Which
the, huh?
I do have to say, as far as making this Blanca look like the video game Blanca, they did a really good job of making it. Uh, the makeup. The makeup was on point.
The makeup's not bad.
It didn't.
It's still weird, but you know what they're going for. Like, okay, this is Blanca. Dr. Delsane's being watched by a larger Bison trooper who's reading a magazine. And at this point, Bison scientists leave. Blanca's muscle mass is increased by like 80% at this point, and Dr. Dalsim is looking at the bar of his like evil meter.
Essentially, that's what I mean. Actually, I don't even think essentially. I think pretty specifically, that's what it's called.
Yeah, yeah. The cerebral download for his evil meter, and it stops. He stops it at like 49%. I think that's what I wrote down. Yeah, yeah, 49%. And then he changes. And remember, we are now in like the 10-hour mark or less for the countdown of the hostages.
Right. So that
So we got to 50% over the last 2 days or so, 2.5 days.
the first half's always the hardest.
Right. I suppose. But Dalsim,
That's what we're gonna go with.
yep, Dr. Dalsim flips a switch, changes the videos from the screaming and murder and burning to videos of weddings and puppies and Dr. Martin Luther King's giving his "I Have a Dream" speech, and just wholesome videos, like a parent and family walking together with the kids. It's like,
The
here's
best
all the,
moments of humanity.
yeah, here's the good stuff. And the is as soon as he turns it on and starts going, it cuts back to the evil meter or the brainwash meter or whatever, and we're now at 61% from 49, and that chunk is now blue. So that's good. Which, as I say that, the first 49% was red, which is Bison's color and evil, and then blue, which is what Guile and the AN troopers are wearing, which is the good. So they have that blue and red theme going through this with good and evil,
Yeah.
which also is a general usage of player one, player two.
Yes, it is. And we'll get more into video games in a little bit.
Yes, we will. But yeah, so we get babies laughing and kids doing their thing, and Blanca's all happy, and we cut back to Guile and the stealth boat coming down the river. He's like, "I'm coming, buddy. I shouldn't have dimed you out." Oh, and here we go. We the next page over, we're back in Bison's headquarters in command center, and we see the clock which says 59 minutes. We are down to an hour left on the hostage ticker.
Yes. The passage of time in this movie is horrid.
At least they show it. They kind of have a
Fair.
countdown clock, and you're like, okay, it's going. It doesn't make sense,
It is not great.
Because okay, they had the countdown clock that was matching Bison's clock at their conferences. So when they jumped into the stealth boat, it was 11 hours. So they've been in the stealth boat for 10 hours going up this river?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
so we're in here, we're panning up, and Zangief and the Bison troopers are bringing in the rabble rousers. E Honda, Balrog, Chung Li, Ken Masters, and Ryu. They're bringing
Yeah.
them in, lining them up, chaining them to this parapet catwalk thing to look over Bison and Sagat and Vega and their men who are all kind of standing around listening to Bison talk. And he's like, if you would all work together, because talking to the guys up on the good guys, if you all work together, you might have been successful, but you weren't. He was giving them the
Basically.
benefit of the doubt. Like, you know what? You quabbled amongst yourselves too much, and we found you out and got you. If you worked together, you might have defeated me. But now we're here. So we cut back to the boat, and they're about to go into stealth mode as they're headed up this river. They pull down their little visors. They arm their weapons. They like 1, 2, 3, push, and they push this little button, and it says stealth mode activated. And it looks like they are taking off on Space Mountain. They all kind of jerk back, lights flash in front of their eyes, and it looks like they're starting to go fast. As from the outside of the boat, it starts lighting up with electricity and kind of turns opaque. Any comments? You done with this
Opaque.
movie?
Opaque does not mean see-through.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't.
Like you change the opacity so it kind of fades through, right? You gotta look it up. Better look it up.
Opaque. Not able to see through.
That's not what
Not
it says.
not transparent.
Opaque?
Opaque.
Fine. Okay. They they
It
count
becomes
down. They
transparent.
it's more mirrored surface than just completely invisible, but it's reflecting the water and the trees around it. They have dropped off the enemy radar, and they're looking for the other radar towers and weapons that they can shoot down. So a little panel pops up, a gun pops out and starts shooting all the radars along the river. And there's explosion after explosion after explosion, and we cut back to Bison's HQ, and DJ's like, "Hey, General, something's going on. Our radar keeps blowing up on the river. Two of our radar stations just written down." So Bison comes over and like, "Let's get a visual on this." And they DJ pushes some buttons, and you get a screen of the river, and it's so ridiculous. It's like the camera's in the middle of the river, and you
Yes.
see these wakes coming off the side of an invisible boat, and they're like,
Yeah.
"Huh, that's weird. I wonder what it is."
I said the same thing. We're watching it and I go, there's clearly a boat coming. It's obvious.
So DJ's like, "Hey, radar station 2 and 3 are down. We're not picking up anything. Oh, and there goes another. Radar stations are offline." And they're like, "Well, send out the disruptors and let's disrupt any stealthing signals." So they send out a jamming signal for the stealth. The stealthing drops, and it's
Movie's got a
it's
movie.
movie. I've said that on several occasions. Yes, movie's got a movie. So they disrupt the stealthing signal, and the boat comes into view. They can see the boat coming straight at the camera, and it swerves just before it hits the camera that's in the middle of the river. And they turn on the yellow alert system. DJ lifts up his little flap, pulls his little lever, and changes it. We're in, and the base is now in lockdown. Yellow alert. People are coming. All personnel report to duty. This is not a drill. It is time. So some of the people at the command center start pushing buttons, and turrets start popping out of the ground, start shooting at the stealth boat, the perimeter defenses, and they're firing at the boat. The boat's firing back, and it is a little firefight on the river. General Bison and Bison's face appears on the camera. He's like, "We've got a signal on you. Identify yourself." And they pack, and Guile's like, "Hey, Bison, it's me." And he's like, and Sagat's all confused, like, "Guile's alive?" And Bison's like, "Of course he's alive." this his death was a elaborate ruse to get the spies entrusted with you. And he points up to Kanarayu, and he puts his hand over his legs. I guess you didn't see that, did you?
So good. Oh, it's hysterical.
Yeah. Sagat does not look unimpressed, but he doesn't say anything. But but
It's
Bison's like,
hilarious.
yeah, but Bison is talking to Guile over this intercom. He's like, "Well, Colonel Guile, it is now time for you to actually die." And he presses his button, and his little floating desk comes down, and he whips his cape and climbs up into it. And this is, I mean, one another nod to the video game. The console at his desk is the arcade cabinet console that has the joysticks and the buttons on it. It's the world with the joysticks and the 6 buttons on each side.
Which is, I believe, the Street Fighter cabinet.
Yes, it is the cabinet console. I mean, it's got both joysticks, it's got all 6 buttons, it's got the start buttons for each. So he presses a button on this console. We go to a side view of this river. We see the boat moving, and Bison is I'll say it. Bison is button mashing. He doesn't not know how to play this game. He's just hitting the buttons and releasing mines in the the river to try and stop the boat.
Doesn't know how to play his own game.
Exactly. I mean, I suppose he's button mashing. I don't
He's
yeah.
button mashing to the max.
But when all you're doing is releasing mines, it's not a lot
Sure.
to do. Yeah.
And at the same time, though, he's releasing a lot of mines,
Yeah,
and there are only 6 buttons.
true. But as he's using the joystick to move down the river so he can release more in sections, right?
Sure. Okay. Fair. Yeah.
Anyway, T-Hawk's like, "Colonel, they've got a signal lock on us. We got about 30 seconds till we're swimming regardless of what goes on here." And Gal's like, "Well, let's bail out then."
Yeah. He said if we're
So
gonna be swimming anyway, we might as well get an early start.
yep. So they unhook themselves and jump out of the boat just as Bison hits a button and the boat explodes and says a great line from the trailer, "Game over." Bison is happy. He has killed Guile in his mind, and everybody that's like handcuffed to that rail is like, "Aw." They send the signal out to stand down from the yellow alert as we cut over to Dr. Dalsim checking on Blanca's vitals. His muscle mass is now at 91% increase. And he's looking at the video feed, and we're seeing weddings, we're seeing old men tell stories. The good bar is now up to 89%. The whole bar is up to 89%. So we've got that first 49% of evil, and we've got 40% of good juice going into his mind.
We have an hour left.
Dr. Dalsim closes down the screen just as the heavy set Bison guard with the mustache comes over and is like, "What are you doing?"
You mean Ron Jeremy?
Yes, that looks exactly like Ron Jeremy. Huh. So Ron Jeremy comes over, is like, "What are you doing?" And he presses a button on the thing and pops up to the screen of Martin Luther King talking. And the lady with the family, and he's like, "You're doing nothing, huh?" So he shoves Dalsim into a table, starts messing with the panel again, and starts calls security in. But Dr. Dalsim picks up almost like a fire extinguisher, just a big tube of something, and hits him in the back of the head with it. And he flies into a cabinet of electrical components, which starts shorting out as he hits it. I don't think he gets electrocuted, but now this Ron Jeremy guard is fighting Dr. Dalsim. He knocks him into the chemicals that were changing Blanca, and they accidentally release Blanca from the tube. He breaks the restraints and jumps out and sees what's going on. He doesn't like that Dr. Dalsim's getting strangled, so he attacks Ron Jeremy guard.
Shouldn't have said it.
That's who he is now, Ron Jeremy Guard. Okay. So yeah, Blanca takes out Ron Jeremy Guard, lifts him over his head, throws him around, and we cut to the outside of the Bison compound where troops are standing around with guns, looking around. Some of them are speaking off for each other, speaking a foreign language. I don't know what they're speaking. And even the subtitle said foreign language, so I just went with it. But they're smoking. One of the guys in the middle says, "No, no, cigarette for me." And then they hear a noise, and they like, "Oh, what's that?" And they turn around and see an elephant walking through. They're like, "Oh, haha, just an elephant that has put us on edge." And then from where they were just looking, out of nowhere, because there's no bushes there, Guile just kind of pops up and then knocks all three of them out.
Completely dry.
Yes, yes, completely dry. He just boom, 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 and they're down. A couple more guys are coming, and Cammy and T Hawk knock them out. Cammy does a little neck break twist flip move, and the
Also
Bison.
both dry.
Yes, completely dry. It's like they jumped out of the boat onto the land and then watched the boat blow up from there. So they take care of the Bison troopers and start headed towards the facility. As we cut to the official who tried to, or who fired Guile and gave him the orders to send everybody home. He's talking to Madam Secretary and saying, "No, no, no, I gave him the orders. That guy's impossible. I'm stopping him from taking all. I've stopped him from taking all the soldiers, so we're good there." And we cut back to the base and see the chef. He's sitting on a little box. He's stirring a big pot of soup or something. But he's the last soldier left.
And he is played by Edward Pressman,
Okay.
who is the executive producer of this movie.
Ah. Okay. Thanks for looking that up because I didn't.
I look up the info on like to see what else like the producers have done or whatnot.
Oh, okay.
And so when I was reading up on Edward Pressman, I saw that in his credit, he had an acting credit, and I go, oh, he's acted too. And I looked, and it said Lonely Chef, Street
Okay.
Fighter.
Oh, nice.
I was like, oh, okay.
So we see the top of this. I guess I never described it when we saw Bison's base first. It's like built under an ancient ruin pyramid or some ancient ruins. So we see the top of it as Guile, Cammy, and T Hawk are moving along the edge of it. And Guile's like, "Hey T Hawk, what's with the headband?" Because T Hawk is now wearing a headband. And he's like, "It's Cherokee. I wear it for good luck in battle." And Guile's like, "Yeah, you should have brought three of them." And it doesn't go into anything about T-Hawk or that he is Cherokee, just that he wears this Cherokee headband, but, I mean, T-Hawk is Cherokee. It's a personal headband to him, basically. It's not just, "Hey, I'm wearing this Cherokee headband because it's good luck." It'd be like, "Hey, I wear this, Japanese kimono into battle because it's good luck." Like, "You're not Japanese, dude."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Should have
but, you
been a
know.
little more specific of like, yeah, this is my
Right.
Cherokee, for
Yeah,
my heritage from
it's Cherokee. It's of my heritage. I wear it for good luck in battle to help with the warrior spirit, or
anything more.
and yeah, anything a little bit more. And then Guile saying, "Hey, you should have brought three of them, so we'd all have good luck." Like,
It doesn't
thanks,
work that
Guile.
way.
Thanks, Guile. He's like, "Yeah, I don't care, Charlie. I'm coming."
Yeah.
So they work their way up these ruins, taking out bison guards till they find a grate where they can get into the complex. Guile starts working his way down as Cammy gets a rope and drops it down to him. He's going to rappel inside this facility, and as he grabs the rope, he slips and kind of slides down through a spider web and notices the tarantula crawling on him, which is not the spider that would have made that web, but it's movie got a movie, and spiders, all big spiders are tarantulas, and they make giant webs for movies.
It's more the fact of tarantulas are the easiest spider to work with. Whenever they need spiders, it's just tarantulas. They're slow moving. They're
Big and menacing.
big and menacing looking.
Yeah,
Everyone knows they don't make webs, but I
yeah.
digress.
Anyway, so Giles kind of halfway down this little chute vent thing, holding braced himself with his feet, holding onto this rope. He's yelling up, "Is the rope secure?" And they're like, "Almost. You just kind of slipped before we could do it." But they get the rope secure. He starts working his way down this ventilation shaft, and he's grumbling all the way down. But we cut to the refugees again, and you hear news talking about the $20 billion that Bison wants, that the hostages are nowhere closer to being released, that the GNT correspondent, Chung Lee, is missing with her crew, and we hope there's a peaceful solution soon. And we appeal to General Bison in the name of humanity to give us more time, that we were trying to get this sorted out for you. And you can see the timer in the background going 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The alarm starts beeping, and the news segment ends. And Bison's like, "DJ, did they deposit the 20 billion in a Swiss bank?" And DJ clicks a couple things on the computer. The show's balance is 0. His Swiss bank has nothing DJ looks at it and is like, "Heck no, General." Bison's unhappy and just kind of lowers his desk down as we cut back to Guile, Cammy, and T-Hawk as he makes his way down. Cammy and T-Hawk are staying topside to help rally the troops when they get there, basically. And Cammy yells down the 12-minute ETA until the rest of the troops land. So their timing was off too to even get there before the hostages are supposed to be killed. So you'd think their plan would be to get there before the timer runs out, so there's no risk of the hostages at least getting excommunicated before they have a chance to storm it. But at this point, they're still breaking in. The troops aren't there. The timer's done, and it's time to execute.
And their ETA is still 15 minutes.
Yes, yes.
The
And Giles
timer's
like,
off. We're out of time. Where are we at? Oh, about 15 minutes out. Beautiful.
okay. Guile lands at the bottom and turns on his flashlight and starts looking around. And Bison's now like, open up the hostage pit. Hostages stand clear because we're opening this thing. And he didn't get his money. He's planning on taking down the hostages. Guile pokes his head out of a vent in the laboratory and starts looking around. He sees dead John Jeremy. The room's lights are flashing. He pulls his gun out and starts looking around to see what's going on. Dead screens, light flashing. This room is sparks going everywhere. This room has been trashed and destroyed. There's for some reason an aquarium in the corner that he walks up next to. It's got a lionfish in it, and I don't know if that's just we're using these animals for experiment or DNA stuff, but it's weird that there's of everything that got trashed in this room, the aquarium is still sitting there.
Movie's got a movie.
I suppose, but it's not like they ever referred to any of the animals or DNA testing or stuff. It's just here's an aquarium, there's a lionfish.
Maybe it's in the bonus features.
Maybe, maybe it's in
It's
the
not.
bonus features. Okay, did you look at the
It's,
bonus features? Okay.
there weren't any.
Anyway, Giles moving around this room and he gets rushed by Blanca. He grabs him by the throat, lifts him off the ground, is choking him, and he's like, "Charlie, Charlie, is that you? It's me, William," because his name's William Guile.
Only in this movie.
Yeah. He's like, "I'm your friend." And Blanca's like, "Friend? Oh, yeah, let me let you down. I recognize you, friend. Yeah." And then he starts to be Charlie a little bit more. Giles like, "What do they do to you?" And he starts crying and Blanca's like, "Oh gosh, what have they done to me?" He feels his face, he knows, looks at his hands. He's like, "Help me. What have they done?" And Giles like, "Oh man, yeah, I'll help you." He picks up his gun and cocks it and, and points it at Blanca, who looks up as he cocks the gun, and he's like, "Yeah, okay, that's fine."
Yeah, that's the natural course of action.
Yeah, and then Dalsim comes over. He's Giles pointed the gun at him, and he's like, "I can't do it. I can't, but I got to do it." I don't know what they did to him, but this is. He's about to shoot him, and Doctor Dalsim grabs his hand and says, "Don't do it. It's not his fault. He's like this." And we cut back to Bison, and Bison is giving his speech to the to the hostages. He's like, "Hey, the world didn't care enough about you to give me my money, or even attempt a rescue mission. So I'm gonna kill you, but I'm gonna have one of my super soldiers kill you. He is a he's like, yeah, you guys don't deserve the dignity of a firing squad. No, I'm gonna release my beast super soldier on you." And the hostages are all murmuring and gasping. And he's like, "This is my creation. My genius has created this beast. Raise the chamber." And you see the chamber starts to blink and go off while Dr. Dalsim is down there explaining to Guile that he preserved his mind as best he could, that Bison may have messed up his body, but he's capable for good and evil as well. Yes, but he doesn't deserve to die for it. And who are you to judge what he deserves? The tube starts flashing again. Dell seems like, "Look, the real monster's upstairs. Blanca's something, but Bison's upstairs, the real monster." So we cut back upstairs. Sagat and Vega are looking down on the hostages. Same with the good guys who are still there, chained up. And the tube starts to come up as spikes come up too, making a walkway. So when the cage opens up, the tube opens up, the the super soldier will be able to just walk straight to the pit with the people, right? They got these big spikes keeping them in, like a cage almost. I mean, the way he made this thing, Blanca could jump over this. little spikes, but it's a it I mean, it's impressive looking.
Yeah. And there's also what, 64 hostages?
63.
63
Yes,
people
63 hostages.
versus 1.
Yeah, Blanca the super soldier.
Sure. Granted, he's got twice the muscle capacity,
Yes.
but that's still 63 people.
Yeah. Who, though, have been in a pit for 3 days with no food.
You still got adrenaline.
Yeah,
And it's still 63 of you.
true. We'll see what happens. The hostages are freaking out. They don't wanna get torn apart by a monster thing. The cage comes up, the door opens, and Bison's like, "Yeah, let me look at my creation." And then, as if shot out of a cannon, Guile flies out of this tube straight for Bison in a flying kick and smacks him into his flying desk. Chung Li, Ken, and Rai, you were like, "Yeah, he's alive and doing good." And the Bison troopers just start open fire on Guile, who's hiding behind some machinery. He starts popping out and shooting them, and then Bison yells to shoot the hostages.
Yep,
He may have be up against a fight, but he wants those hostages dead
for some reason.
because people will blame Guile for not doing something sooner.
Sure.
Anyway, Guile pushes the lever to start closing it as the Bison troopers, who are worse shots than stormtroopers, start opening fire on the closing pit, and then just this battle starts going. Guile's looking for places to hide where he can shoot. Soldiers are falling off. Zangief's telling people, sending them in, and rogue trooper is like, "I'm gonna set off the red alert." So he's running over there, and Guile throws a knife at him and stabs him in the back, but he falls on the red alert button anyway, and it starts going off. Okay, so the battle's going out. Troopers, soldiers, everybody in the martial arts gis, they're all mobilizing. The base is going to lockdown. This is not a drill. Everybody's going. Troopers start coming out and firing on Cammy and T Hawk, who are just standing in the open for some reason.
They're trying to duck behind something.
Well, not initially. Once they start getting shot at, then they jump behind stuff. But the good guy team with Balrog, E Honda, Ken Ryu, and Chung Li all pull on the railing they're cuffed to and break it off, so they're able to slide the bar out and get loose. And they start getting into the fray as well. Balrog pulls off his shirt to reveal the blue boxing shirt that he wears in the video game. E Honda's shirt is coming apart. We're starting to get battle where people get into their video game outfits
Yeah.
closer. Everybody touches base with Guile. He tells Ken and Ryu to free the hostages, and they'll get them 2 first-class tickets home. Zangief is trying to get the troopers to stop running, calling them cowards to stay and fight. And E Honda pushes his way through a wall and is like, "You're mine, buddy." He rips his shirt off and jumps down at Zangief, and they just start punching and fighting each other. One thing that jumped out at me is when you see E Honda's back as he lands on Zangief, it's got the marks on him.
Yeah, they stay very good continuity there.
Yes. Yes, very good continuity there. So the battle's still going on. Everybody's shooting, and Segat and Vega are like, let's get some revenge as they see Ken and Ryu running out one way. So they kind of like, yeah, and they start going after them as we cut outside. We see the boats coming up the river, and it's just continual battle going on. We keep cutting back and forth to the boats come in, people getting shot on the outside, good guys, bad guys exchanging fire.
Mhm.
Zangief and E Honda are wrestling around the floor and fight into it's like another hole where a tube would come out of, but it just opens up and they kind of fall into it.
Yeah.
So they kind of just disappear briefly. Guile tells Chung Li and Balrog to go help Ken and Ryu find the hostages and get them out. And they're like, okay, good luck. And now it's everybody's left, and it's Guile behind a brick wall just shooting at Bison troopers by himself.
I think around this time there's a point where like Bison's watching and DJ
Yeah. So DJ's at his console, and Bison comes over. Is like, "Where's Blanca? What's going on?" And DJ pulls up the feed, and you see Blanca fighting Bison troopers in the lab.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Why is he fighting my men? What's going on?" And Yeah, he's like patching the cerebral programming. Quit, and they pull up the feed of what Dalcine was showing him of the babies and the happiness, and he punches the screen as the AN troops land finally on the river. So the good guys are here. The allied nations are here. They're storming the Bison's base, and Guile is still just mowing down trooper after trooper by himself in this command center.
Mhm. And then at one point, Bison says, "Whatever happens, DJ, we shall face this together." And like
Yes.
DJ's behind him, and he's just kind of like give this little nod, and then you see him start to just kind of walk away, and then just leave, just blatantly walks away. Like, nope.
Yep, he slips out the back, makes his way through a door as they're watching the troops come up the mountain on the security feed in Bison, and Bison's determining defeat is possible, but we will stand together, DJ, you and me, let's do this. And that's what DJ kind of like, yeah, I'm out as true warriors. DJ's like, no,
Nope.
nope. So Cammy's got a rocket launcher now for some reason and fires it straight into these ruins of the front door, basically, and it blows up in front of Ken and Ryu. And Ken's like, "I'm out. That we've done our part. I'm getting out of here." And Ryu's like, "No, we got to get the hostages out." And he's like, "That's not worth it. We got to get out of here." Ryu's like, "I got to do my part. Get these hostages out of here." And Ken's like, "Well, forget you. I gotta look out for me now." So at this point, it's just jumping back from battle scene to battle scene. Bison troopers fighting the allied nations, Blanca fighting the Bison troopers. We get a shot of Zangief and E Honda barreling through a wall, through a door, into a hallway. They're just the heavy hitters going at it, basically. And then we get a scene. Guile has taken all the troopers down in his room. He jumps up onto this catwalk and starts running as a door opens, and more guys come out. There's about 15 Bison troops as they come out with guns, all aimed them at Guile. He doesn't have a gun on him. He grabs the knife off his out of a little sheath on his chest, and he holds it up, and they all start backing up. And Guile's like, "Oh yeah, they know who I am." He's getting all cocky. He's like, "Yeah, I got my knife. They know." And from behind, you hear Cammy and T Hawk and other troopers like, "We're here. We're pushing the enemy back, but there's no sign of Bison." And he's like, "Oh, I guess the reinforcements came." He puts his knife away and looks all sheepish for a second, and like, "Well, Bison's probably hiding." Ha 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 ha. Bison comes on the screen and is talking to Guile about the purity of unarmed combat, that he wants to challenge him to one on one, basically. And he's like, "Come out from behind the curtain, wizard." Wizard of Oz reference
Yep.
there.
Have that written down.
But they both have accepted this challenge, basically. Bison swings over and gets on the catwalk with Guile. Bison sends his troops away. Guile's telling his guys to get the hostages and get out. If he's not topside within 15 minutes, evacuate without him. That he either ends Bison now or they go out together. So this is the scene. This is the note I have that says Bison huge.
Yeah, and this is where that's where I have it written down that Raul Julia is 6'2" and probably has about 2-inch boots on.
Yeah. How tall is Jean Claude Van Damme?
He's 5'10".
Okay, that makes sense because Jean-Claude Van Damme comes up to about nose, maybe mouth on Bison, so he's got a couple inches in those boots, and he's just
Yeah,
the way they looked on the catwalk, he looked huge.
yeah. And I was like, that looks. I go because I always thought Raul Julia was a small man,
I did too.
and so I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. I go, how tall is he? And I looked it up, and I was like, oh, okay, Raul Julia is 6'2", and
Yeah. They start fighting, and they punch back and forth, and Guile does that uppercut where they show his bicep with the American flag right on the side of it. Another nice trailer shot, and we get to cuts over to Captain Swanda.
this guy.
Yeah, with a bunch of soldiers. They're speaking in Japanese. They've tapped into the security feed, and he's like, "Good, show me what's on the screen." And they tap in, and they see Bisonopolis model with Zangief and E Honda fighting on top of it with Godzilla noises in the background.
Yes, I have. That was so good.
And for whatever reason, the security camera keeps moving around, so it's zooming in on him, and they just see up here, down here. It's it's not a security camera feed. It's an actual filmed part. But, eh,
We'll just let it
right?
be.
Yeah, we'll let it be. We cut back to Guile and Bison fighting. They're exchanging kicks, neck holds, choke holds, getting thrown over the edge of the catwalk. They just keep going at it until they end up in Bison's floating desk where they're continuing to fight. Bison chucks Guile out at one point, and Guile's hanging underneath it, moving around as Bison's looking around for him. And then he swings up and kicks Bison back. It's not a great fight, but you know, one of them's a martial artist, the other one's Raul Julia. But when Guile swings up and kicks Bison, he falls off the desk and he jumps down, and Guile's kicking him over and over again, and it's very one-sided at this point once they get on the ground. We cut over to Chung-Li and Balrog looking for the hostages. They beat up some Bison troopers and get the information they're looking for. As we cut back to Bison and Guile still fighting. This is when he does the moon kick where he jumps up and does a backflip while he kicks up. I think that's what
Hmm.
it's called, right? The moon kick.
Something like that.
But he kicks Bison into a control panel. It lights up and lights him up, and the electricity goes all over the place. And Bison closes his eyes and dies. Guile grabs a little radio communicator, taps in, and Cammy answers it. He's like, "Hey, I'm alive, just half dead. What's going on out there?" And he's like, "Well, Bison's all dead," because she asks how the fight's going, but they have not breached the area completely yet. They are still trying to get the hostages and get out, but you see the equipment behind Guile as it indicates that Bison's life support suit kicks in. So it commences CPR where it kind of inflates and deflates. It pumps him with adrenaline and shocks him, reviving Bison and giving him powers. Or did the suit have the powers? He stands up and shoots lightning at Guile at this point.
So I think the suit always had the electromagnetic powers. That's how he got his floating desk thing to float.
Right.
He was just in the first fight, he was being honorable, unarmed combat, and fighting fair, and then he realized he didn't stand a chance, so he was gonna cheat.
Makes sense. So Bison shoots lightning at Guile, sends him across the room. He drops the communicator, and we cut to DJ opening up a safe in Bison's room, taking a big chest. And he's like, "Oh, Mama didn't raise no fool," and he's got his money and he's headed out.
Yep.
Shortly after that, Ken walks in, just missing DJ. He's like, "Oh, the safe's open. Everything's gone. There must be something around here." He sees a gold statue and grabs it. He's happy. He's like, "Okay, I got some gold. I'm good." And as he's trying to find a way out, he's clicking on the security feed, and he sees Ryu looking around. He's like, "Oh, look, it's my buddy." And then he notices Sagat and Vega coming up behind him. He's like, "Dude, Ryu, they're behind you. Look out!" He's trying to communicate with him, but he comes to the realization he needs to go save his friend or help him
Hmm.
out because he's walking into a trap. Basically, he even tries to call him on the radio, but it's to no avail.
Well, what would make him think that that radio would suddenly go into where Ryu was?
I don't
Like,
know.
what he picks up this thing, he's like, Ryu, Ryu, like,
Yeah,
what's it gonna
he's
do?
He's hoping maybe it was an intercom so he could tell him, but Ryu's looking in I guess, the dojo area where all the troops and the gis were training and stuff, and he's in the locker room, and Vega comes around the corner and slashes at him with his claw, hitting him on the stomach a little bit. Then he puts his mask on, is in full video game attire now. His shirt's off, his mask is on, he's got the claw, and Ryu is ready to fight too. So they start dueling at it. Guile is back with Bison saying, "What happened to unarmed combat?" And Bison's like, "Well, this is merely superconductive magnetism. It runs the bullet trains from Tokyo to Okasawa. It levitates my desk. It's natural. And now it levitates me." And his boots start glowing. He lifts into the air and he flies at Guile, punching him to the ground.
Yes, clearly on a wire.
Yes, clearly on a wire, but this is clearly a move that M. Bison does in the game where he flies across the screen spinning with his fist out. We cut back to Ryu fighting Vega. Sagat shows up, starts wailing on Ryu as well. Now Sagat is not in his video game uniform. He's wearing a shirt and fighting gloves, but I digress. We cut back to the Bison Guile fight, and it goes this way for a while, where Bison just kind of flies across the room, connects with Guile, and knocks him down.
Yeah, pretty easy to see coming.
Yeah. So, but we shift back to Ryu fighting Sagat and Vega, and then Ken shows up. Ken rips the bison patch off his off his shirt with the ease of something that was taped on instead of sewn on.
Or Velcro, yeah.
Yeah, and then Ryu removes his shirt. So we've got a dual battle going on between those two, cutting back and forth between the two fights, basically. Ryu ends up knocking the claw off Vega, and it lands on the ground, teeth up. And he also does an almost Hadouken move. Basically, he does the move and hits him square in the chest, and it there's a bright light for a second, like he shot something almost.
Yeah, they do the nod to the Hadouken.
Very vague about that. But yeah, so he kicks off Vega's claws, it lands pointy side up. And I mean, the pointy bits have to be half an inch or so.
Yeah,
They're not that long, but that lands on the ground. And there's another part with the furnace too that I didn't write down, but they get near the furnace and it starts to open up, the same furnace that Zangief threw their suits in. The furnace starts opening up, and Ryu's pushing his face closer to it to heat up the mask, and he takes it off because hot metal on face bad.
yeah, that doesn't feel good.
Yeah. Ken uppercuts Sagat, knocking him down, and then
He does a little spin uppercut,
yeah,
which is a nod to one of his moves.
yeah. So, but Ken's just wailing on Sagat. Ryu kicks Vega on top of his claw, which kills him. Maybe just knocks him out because there's no way those claws would have killed him, even if he landed on him. I mean, they just puncture him a little bit, but they're not going in deep enough to hit anything vital.
Right. Yeah, I don't know, maybe it's supposed to. I don't know.
Maybe I always thought it killed him, which I didn't like. But then after seeing it again, it's like, why would those claws kill him? They're so tiny. I mean, I mean they're long, but the hook part at the very end is just minuscule. Anyway, he's lying there. Ken kicks over his little statue onto Sagat and says, "Hey, I owe you. If I hadn't met you, I might have ended up like you." And Sagat's just sitting there, panting, breathing heavy as Ken and Ryu leave. Ken missing his gold statue. But we get back to Bison and Guile. Bison's shooting not lasers, lightning at him like Emperor Palpatine. Guile's trying not to die.
Guile's not really doing much.
No, he's not doing much, but he's Bison is preparing for one final attack. It seems like he's raising up himself into the air, saying he has now become a god, and lightning will strike you down. And Guile's getting up on this little platform, and he goes flying again at Guile like he's been doing, but Guile does jumps up and does a roundhouse kick and sends Bison into his big giant TV screen and smashes everything. It explosions happen, and Bison is now dead again. And as Guile runs away, he says, "Bison, you are now off the air."
Clever line.
Yes. Cammy, Chun-Li, T-Hawk, and Balrog have all gotten to the hostages. Cammy's going to try and pick the lock, but Balrog says, "Move out of the way," and punches the screen. Balrog is now wearing shorts instead of his pants, so he's in his boxer outfit.
He's actually wearing boxing gloves.
He's wearing boxing gloves too now, which he picked up from somewhere.
You just happen to have them lying around. I don't.
I suppose. Chung-Li's wiping her eyes because she's emotional because they saved the hostages. It's all good. Hostages are running to safety as we cut back to Zangief and E Honda, who are now fighting. Zangief in an approximation of his costume from the games because he's shirtless now. His pants have been made into shorts, and everybody runs by. And Chung-Li's like, "Come on, Honda, we got to get out of here." And so he pushes Zangief off him and says, "Sorry, man, can't play no more." And starts running with everybody else. And Zangief's like, "Come back, keep fighting." And he sees DJ down the hall. He's like, "Oh, DJ, my friend." And so he goes running over to him.
This dialogue is great.
Right. As we're getting a count, it's cutting to a bunch of places. We're getting a countdown of this place is going to blow up at this point.
Right.
Now it's time to run because this is going to blow up. And so he runs over to DJ. He's like, "Hey, DJ, why aren't you in uniform? Is that the enemies of peace and freedom are at our walls. We've got to fight." And DJ's like, "Man, are you totally dense? Our boss is the enemy of freedom and peace. These guys are gathered and come together from all over the world to stop him, and if you're smart, you'll save your own butt." And he's like, "Wait. General Bison's is a bad guy? Why did you work for him then?" He's like, "Because he paid me a fortune." And Zangief is puzzled, looks around for a second. He's like, "You got paid?"
Yeah, I just have it. Oh, Zangief is so sweet.
Yeah. So yeah. Zangief was there out of a sense of loyalty to peace and the betterment of the world, where he needed DJ, so he paid him a bunch of money.
Yeah, basically.
Guile has now made his way back to the laboratory, get Charlie and get Dalsim and get out of there. And he's like, "I'm back. Let's get out of here. This place is gonna explode. I failed. We're doing it." And we cut back to Ken Ryu, who's leading the charge of the hostages. Like, "Come on, this way. I see the exit." Cammy's trying to move people along. So is Chung Li, and the door that they're looking at starts to close. It is locking down at this point, and they see that and they cut back to Cammy and Chung Li, and Chung Li says something about her pigtails because Cammy has pigtails, and she's like, "Well, you're one to talk," and she reaches up and feels the buns on her head and is frustrated. But we cut back to the door closing, the blast shields to protect and see, and on the other side we see these two big legs come over, and her two hands grab the bottom of this door, and Zangief just lifts up this door and says, "Hurry this way. This is the get out." So Zangief, with the information that DJ gave him, has decided to actually work for the people of peace and freedom. DJ's making his escape when he's stopped by Sagat and says, "I'm coming with you." And it's like, "The door's right here. Let's go." So they
Yep.
they head out. Ken and Ryu are helping Zangief hold the door open as people are leaving. And as soon as everybody gets out, they drop the door and they are now out to freedom, running away. Guile finds Blanca and Dalsim, who is now bald.
For some reason.
He's bald and shirtless. I wrote it now more like his video game character,
Right.
which sure. I mean, he fell into the chemicals at one point, so it's changing him a little bit too, maybe. But he's saying him and Blanca are going to stay behind and pay penance for his part in making Blanca the monster he is. Blanca doesn't want to live anymore, so they're going to stay here and go down with the ship, basically.
Noble.
And yeah, and Guy's like, "Okay, cool, I'm out. Love you, buddy." And he runs as things start exploding.
Yep.
The computer yells 10 seconds, I guess giving everybody a chance to take cover, but everybody outside runs and kind of jumps behind this little rock ledge. The lab's falling apart. Giles running towards the hatch he came in at. You see Blanca and Dalsim kind of huddled up on a catwalk, and then everybody's running, and boom, big explosion. The top of the base blows up. There's explosions everywhere, and everybody's now asking, "Where's Guile?" Because everybody else is down here except him. You see DJ and Sagat swimming into the river from a little tunnel that they had come out of, and we've got a shot of all the Bison troopers relinquishing their weapons and dropping them into a big pile, which Zangief is manning.
That's the guy you want doing that.
They forgave him right quick and let him be a main character.
He saved everybody.
He did. I mean, he was by one of Bison's right hand side, but as soon as he realized what was going on, he changed
Yeah.
and helped the hostages get out. He was the reason they all got out. So they was like, "Yeah, you stand here, make sure all the weapons get put in. If anybody gets out of line, bump them one." So they're rounding up all the Bison troops that got out. Everybody is standing around talking about Guile, like, "Hey, did he make it? What's going on?" I don't know. But we cut to Sagat and DJ on the side of the river, Sagat's trying to open this case. He's shirtless now, and he's got the big scar on his chest that we can see from when I think Ken uppercutted him.
I think it's long before that.
I remember it being bright red and looking fresh.
I think it's supposed to just be an old scar from
Could
his
be.
days in the cage.
Anyway, he's trying to open the case that DJ got, and he's like, "Careful, man, that's my severance pay." Sagat opens it and finds he he gets this look on his face. And we cut back to more of the refugees, more of the hostages, more of the soldiers, and we get a shot of the heroes standing around. And this is why I think the guy was supposed to be Fei Long, because he's in this shot. So you got Zangief, Ken Ryu, Chung Li, E Honda, Balrog, and then Fei Long or the captain, and then T Hawk and Cammy. It's all characters from the game. I think that's who he was supposed to be initially.
Okay, that makes sense.
But they're all standing around. Zangief's like, "He was a good man and a true warrior, and he will be remembered." And everybody's kind of sad. Cammy's like, "He told us to leave, but we should have stayed, but we did the right thing." And Balrog's like, "It doesn't feel right. It feels pretty wrong." It's like, "Well, we had to." And then he comes out of the smoke coughing, and Cammy's laughing. Everybody's like, "Oh, you're alive. You made it." And he makes a joke. He's like, Lieutenant, take a note. I need a vacation." And it's like, "Why are you crying?" And she's like, "Oh, there was tear gas, not because we thought you were dead and you're back." They're all laughing. He's telling Ken and Ryu they did a good job. If they've ever, they earned their passports, and if they considered joining up with the forces, they're like, "Nope," but they'll hang out and be hustlers and help them out on their own terms. Basically, they'll be independent contractors like they were for this one.
Yeah,
And then he squares up to Zangief, who everybody seems cool with, so Guile seems cool with him, and Zangief does his little sideways thumbs up, to which Guile turns it the right way, and Zangief seems okay with that. He looks at it, and he's like, "Oh, okay, I get it." Yeah. We cut back to DJ looking at a pile of bison bucks. Because why would a bison have real money?
of course not. His is gonna be worth 5 British pounds.
Exactly. So DJ's all dissuaded. Sagat's walking around throwing this money in the air. And if the tiny little claws to Vega's chest didn't kill him, the explosion did. So he went the way of Blanca and Dalsim.
Yeah.
So Colonel Guile is called out by Chung Li, and she's like, "Well, how about that interview now for my network?" And he's like, "Yeah, okay, only if you wear this outfit," which is
Can't say that. But she seems into it, so it's okay.
Yeah, she does seem into it. There is a big explosion again behind them. We get a shot of the team from the other side standing there looking at the thing fall down and fall into rubble. And you get this shot of all of them, and they all kind of do their poses from the game. Even the captain is there. Again,
Yep.
feeding my he was supposed to be Fei Long.
Right, and it's all their victory poses from
Yeah,
the game.
Zangief's in the back with his fingers up. Balrog's got his arms out. Cammy does the turn and looks over her shoulder. Chung Li's got her the peace signs in the air. She does her jump. It's all their moves from the game. And then the Street Fighter logo comes across the screen, and we have finished the movie.
Yes, we have.
Off to our final thoughts, which I think you should start because I've been talking a lot.
Yes,
And
you have.
I mean, this is our longest record yet.
4.5 hour or 4 hours right now.
Yeah, yeah, Street Fighter cannot be our longest episode.
There was a lot of factors that came into play.
To be fair, this movie, there's a lot going on in very little amount of time. It was kept jumping back, and you had the storyline, so many different characters. It it ran long.
It was there. Yeah, there was so many short scenes.
Yes, and I kept trying to jump back and forth. I Towards the end, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna say battle happens because that's what it does at the beginning of the movie. You had all the story beats and stuff, and everything kind of crashed at the end, and it became battle happen.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So I'll get it. Well, yeah. Well, anyway,
anyway, final
final
thought.
thoughts. So, Street Fighter is a terrible movie.
Yes, yes, it
the
is.
the the plot is weak. It has nothing to do with the very little accuracy to of the characters. There's like no setup of anything. You're thrown into this movie, and there's so much of it that is just here's the movie, and Rachel and I absolutely love it. We had so much fun with this movie. It's one of those movies where it's one of those terrible movies that is just so bad it's good.
Yeah.
It's kind of like it's almost like they made it to be a bad movie, and so they played into the campiness of it. They played into the humor of it, and they just were like, "Here is Street Fighter, the movie. Take it for what it is and love it." And we did. Rachel likes it more than she liked Mortal Kombat.
Oh, interesting.
She's wrong,
Yes.
but but I talked to her about it last night, and I'm like, she's like, well, this is lighthearted and fun and funny, and Mortal Kombat's really dark. And I go, true, but
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat is all around a better movie. It is accurate to the story and origin of Mortal Kombat. It's accurate to the characters.
Right, where you get the Mortal Kombat movie, it's a movie about the Mortal Kombat tournament. Where you get the Street Fighter movie, instead of it being about the Street Fighter tournament, it's about a war against Bison.
Yeah, it's it's there with the Super Mario Brothers movie, where it's very loosely based on the idea of the video game.
Dino Hatton.
Yes.
Sorry.
That being said, I will definitely watch it again.
Yeah.
Maybe not a lot again, but as Finley gets older, if he gets into fighting games or into Street Fighter, if Nate starts getting into Street Fighter, I'll definitely be like, "Hey, check this movie out."
Yeah.
I'm sure maybe once in a while Rachel and I will be like, "Hey, you want to watch Street Fighter?" Be like, "Yeah, okay."
It's a movie I'd put on while I'm cleaning or something. You just put it on, it's something on the TV, it's like, "Hey, it's doing its thing."
Yeah, and they're like, "Oh, I haven't seen it in a long time, and I own it, so why not?"
Yeah.
But that's pretty much all I have about it.
Okay. I think I'm in the same boat, and I know I did this at the beginning, but I'm gonna apologize to mom and dad again. So sorry for making you watch this. If you did watch it, if you didn't, then you know what you're in for if you do decide to watch it. But yeah, it is not a good movie, but it is fun. I have a lot of fun with it. I'm sure I got the biggest nostalgia goggles on for it, but it's something I enjoy, and I will watch it again and again.
And Dad has seen this movie.
Has he?
Someone took us to the theater, and I believe Dad got stuck with it
Yeah, probably.
because there's no way
Well,
we were in there by ourselves. So I'm
we'll
pretty
ask him,
sure. What?
but we'll ask him later once it comes out. But yeah, it's campy. It's fun. There's tonal shifts. The characters are a lot of times not good representations of the characters, but it's still dorky, fun, campy, and I enjoy it. So
I agree. Love this movie. A lot of fun watching it.
yeah,
A lot of fun talking about it too.
yeah, a lot of talking about it. I guess
Yeah.
if I don't have anything else to say about it. So if you don't, let's get on to what's next.
Oh, I did want to do a shout out
Oh, okay.
because I've been looking at the numbers of how our episodes have been doing,
Yes.
and I've been showing you.
Yes.
But there is one thing I have been keeping from you.
Oh, what's that?
We have a listener from Germany.
Really?
Yes, I saw it about a week or so ago. I noticed it when I was looking at numbers that we have one listener, it seems, from Germany.
Oh,
So
that's
to
exciting.
So thank you to our one listener, or if there's more of you and it's just not showing up or registering that way, thank you to you from Germany that are listening. We appreciate it, and we are extremely excited to know that our podcast has made it around halfway around the world.
That is really exciting. Thank you for listening. Please reach out, send us a message, and on Twitter or Instagram or something. If you've got social medias, we'd love to hear from you. But thank you. Keep listening. We'll keep making them.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, that'll segue me right into if you do want to reach out to us, we'd love to hear from you. You can email us, watchitbropodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter at watchitbropod. We also have an Instagram and a Facebook with the same handle, I believe. So any of those locations, it'd be awesome to hear from you.
Yeah. Oh, also, I guess I think I stopped doing this a while back, or at least a couple. Spoiler alert.
Oh yeah, thanks for that. Yeah,
You're welcome.
good job. So that wraps up everything that we were talking about with Street Fighter,
Yeah, I
and
think
it's
I think that
Marshall's.
ends our talk of Street Fighter. So
Now on to
that's
Marshall's favorite part of the episode.
yeah, I get to find out what I'm watching next.
You do get to find out what you're watching next. And, you know, when we do these, we really try to make each episode a different kind of movie so that they don't feel like they're the same.
Yes, different flavor for each one. I
Different
think
flavor.
we've gone comedies a few in a row, but they've been very different types of comedies.
Right. And
With the
go ahead.
I was gonna say with the Tremors, kind of the horror feel between the first two, with and then My Cousin Vinny. So yeah, and anyway, yeah, we try to make each one feel a little bit different from the last. We wouldn't want to do like two road trip movies back to back, or two. I don't know where I'm going with that, but yes, I'll let you keep talking. Sorry.
Right. We've been trying to go different. Like we're not do movies with the same two actors in it. Very
Right, like we won't do
right back to
Bloodsport
back.
next.
Right. And so yeah, I pick a lot of comedies because I like comedies, and that's pretty much all I watch. So, but we still try to go in different tones of like plots and settings and whatnot. And so I've noticed that all the movies we've picked so far take place on Earth.
Okay.
So I am going to take us in a movie that takes place, a big portion of the plot is away from Earth.
Okay.
And we are going to dive into the 1997 comedy Rocket Man
Okay. With Harland Williams?
with Harland Williams. Yes.
Okay. That sounds good. I'm excited for that one. I have that movie somewhere around here, so I won't need to rent it.
Yes, I actually bought it at the end of Vegas vacation.
Okay.
I've been telling Rachel about this movie forever, and I'm like, I gotta watch it. I gotta own it. Because we can't stream it anywhere. And so finally I was just like, you know what? Next movie. Found it online for cheap, bought it, done.
Okay. That
Oh,
is I'm excited. I haven't seen that movie in about 20 years.
oh good.
Um,
So it'll be fairly, it'll had been a long time for both of us then.
yes, yes. I watched it a lot, like, right at the end of high school. But then, yeah, I don't think I've seen it in quite a while.
Yeah, because I remember watching it with you a couple times
Yeah,
in
I
your
think I
cool
introduced you
room.
to it.
You did. Yeah, I was
So,
sitting in grandpa's old leather chair that you had in your
yep.
bedroom downstairs
Mhm. Had the little TV setup and everything. But
with the stereo and the record player. That was a pretty sweet room you had.
yep. Thank you. I liked it. But you had the video game set up in your room. The you had a Nintendo, Super Nintendo, everything kind of set up there. The
Well, right,
PlayStation.
because yeah, and then I had the two TVs
Yeah.
because I had the old entertainment center and I had the TV that Grandma Ann got us in the center, and then I had the little black one, the little 13-inch.
Little gray. Yeah, yeah, I know which one you're talking about. That's the one we used to take camping with us sometimes, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Set up in the back of the truck.
Yeah, that one. And I had that set up in the bottom left of the entertainment center where there was space for it. And so when I had
Ah,
friends spend the night, I had different consoles set up to different TVs so we could each play our own games.
that's cool.
It was a pretty neat setup, yeah. Anyway,
But anyway,
let's let's wrap it up.
yep. Rocket Man next.
Rocket Man
And that
next.
was
And that was Street Fighter. That's what you were
yes,
gonna say.
yes, that's exactly what I was gonna say.
Yes, so thank you for coming along with us while we talked for probably way too long about Street Fighter, the movie.
Yeah, let's see how this edit goes because this might be our longest one yet, which is
I
crazy.
will not let it be that.
Sure.
Anyway, so thank you to everyone who came along to look at Street Fighter the movie with us. Our intro and outro music, as always, has been provided by Nihilore, that intro being Grace, that outro being Haven. And as always, thank you for watching.